So let us continue our revision. Let us continue our marathon series without wasting any time further. So in the previous session, in the previous day, we are done with only two chapters, but we had a very comprehensive revision in the previous session. One is we are done with introduction to audit. Thereafter, we have spent some time in revising. We have spent a good amount of time in revising the content from the chapter supply under GST. So a very good and interesting discussion we had. So much of comprehensive coverage we had it, and also you guys have responded back. You guys even have commented to the videos below, commented to the video which I have uploaded yesterday. So thanks for all your kind words and all. So with the same motivation, with the same energy, with the same conceptual clarity, let us try to proceed ahead and try to understand important concepts, important chapters for revision. So today it's going to be a one cluster. That cluster is going to be very important from the examination perspective. So a cluster of chapters we'll try to revise today. Okay, right. So first, I will start my revision with registration. So very important chapter from the examination perspective. A good amount of weightage will be there from this chapter. So let us try to quickly revise this chapter, registration. And as a part of this registration chapter, we are going to cover a bunch of sections here. So we are going to cover section number 22 till section number 30. Starting from section number 22 till section number 30, all the sections are there covered as a part of this registration chapter. One by one, each section will try to pick up and will try to understand it. See, if I have to give you logical flow of the discussion, so we have seen that yesterday in the previous session. So GST is a tax. Tax on what? Tax on supply of goods or services or both. So for GST to be imposed, first there should be goods or there should be services. And just having the goods and services alone will not be enough. Even a taxable event called supply should have taken place. Just having the goods and services alone will not be enough. Just because the goods are there existing, the services are there existing, it doesn't trigger the government to come and impose a GST. The government will impose GST only when the government will come and impose a GST only when a taxable event called supply has taken place. Only when supply has taken place, then only the GST will be imposed, right? And just because goods and services are there, just because a taxable event called supply has taken place, then also the government will not come and impose GST. The GST will be collected only when the person making such a taxable supply is a registered person or he is a taxable person. So one term we have to understand here, just because goods and services are there, just because supply of goods and services has taken place, the government will not come and impose GST. That supply should have been made by a taxable person. Now a question you will get, sir, what is the meaning of taxable person? They say that taxable person means the person who is already registered under the GST Act or a person who is liable to register under the GST Act. So what do you mean by taxable person? Very important, this thing you have to remember. So what do you mean by taxable person in this term, in this concept GST? This term taxable person is very important. So what do you mean by taxable person? So taxable person means a person who is already registered under GST Act or a person who is liable for registration. So that we call them as a taxable person. So only when the person making such taxable supply is a taxable person, then only the government will collect the GST from such person. So now we have to understand, sir, you are saying taxable person means who is already registered or a person who is liable for registration. But please tell us when a person will become liable for registration. When a person will become liable for registration. So that discussion has been contained in section number 22. So if you go to section number 22, we will get the clarity who is the person, who are such people, who are such business people who will be liable for registration. So section number 22 simply has told that the person who is liable for registration is, if you come to the material here, every supplier who is required to register, every supplier of goods or services or both is required to obtain registration. They are saying the suppliers are liable for registration. Sir, which kind of, when their aggregate turnover exceeds a specified threshold limit. When their aggregate turnover exceeds a specified threshold limit. And where they are required to get registered, sir? In every state or union territory from wherever they are making a taxable supply. So three things here, section 22 addresses three things. Number one, who is required to get registered? They say that every supplier of goods or services or both is liable to get registered. When he is required to get registered, they say when his aggregate turnover exceeds the applicable threshold limit. Where he is required to get registered, they say that he is required to get registered in every state or union territory from wherever he is making a taxable supply. So who we got the clarity? Every supplier. Now when this clarity we have to get it. So what do they say here? When a person will become liable for registration, they say that when their aggregate turnover exceeds the applicable threshold limit. when their aggregate turnover exceeds the applicable threshold limit. Now we need to understand these two terms. What is aggregate turnover? What is applicable threshold limit? So let us try to understand what is the meaning of this term aggregate turnover. So here we have the definition here. So what do you mean by aggregate turnover? Means it includes all taxable supplies. It even includes exempt supplies. Sir, what do you mean by exempt supply? In under GST Act, wherever I say exempt supply, it includes three things. Number one, it could be a wholly exempted supply, or it could be a nil rated supply, or even it could be a non-taxable supply. So whenever I say exempt supply throughout this GST Act, exempt supply includes three things. So what are the three things which will be included in the exempt supply? Number one, it is wholly exempted supply. There is a supply which has been wholly exempted by way of notification. Number two, it could be a nil rated supply. So in the GST rate chart, if you see, there will be certain items, there will be certain services which they will keep it as nil rate. That nil rated supplies will also get covered under exempt supplies. And thereafter, non-taxable supplies. Sir, what is non-taxable supply? Those supplies which are not at all leviable to GST. Like examples, alcoholic liquor for human consumption, that 5 petroleum products which I have told you yesterday, they will fall under non-taxable supply. So whenever I am saying exempt supply, it includes all these three. Even that also should be included in my aggregate turnover. If you are making any export of goods or services, or both, if you are making any exports of goods, if you are making exports of services, if you are making exports of both, that will also be included in your aggregate turnover. Then it also includes interstate supplies of the persons having same PAN. Like for example, you are having places of business in multiple states, and from one place of from let us say for example, I have my place of business in Karnataka, I also have my place of business in Tamil Nadu. So from Karnataka, I am sending some goods to Tamil Nadu for my own branch under same PAN. That also will be deemed to be supply, no, even without consideration. That also should be added in my aggregate turnover. So tell me, what and all will get included? See, this aggregate turnover is very, very important from the examination perspective at various instances. Wherever they wanted to give you some applicability, that applicability they will always try to link it with your aggregate turnover. So it becomes very much necessary for us to understand what will get included in the aggregate turnover, what will not get included in the aggregate turnover. So when it comes to inclusion part, what will get included in the aggregate turnover? All taxable supplies, exempt supplies, exports, interstate supplies of the persons having same PAN. Then, sir, what is not required to be included while calculating that aggregate turnover? So few things you are not required to include it while calculating aggregate turnover. Number one, GST, CGST, SGST, UTGST, IGST or cess. So whatever taxes which are levied under the GST Act, whatever taxes which are getting levied under the GST Act, either it could be CGST or it could be SGST or it could be UTGST or it could be IGST or it could be cess. So that has to be taken out. That means when you are calculating aggregate turnover, you have to calculate the figure exclusive of taxes, not inclusive of taxes. Not just that, in case if you are receiving any inward supply on which you are liable to pay tax under RCM, that is also not required to be included in your turnover. So this is very important. This is where many of the students often make the mistake. So what they're trying to say here is, let us say for example, there is one supplier. He made some supply to the recipient and he is making some supply. This supply is getting covered under RCM. I told you already yesterday what is the meaning of the term RCM. I have already explained it. So what is the meaning of the RCM? Recipient will be liable to pay the amount of GST. So let us say 1 lakh worth of supply has been made. How much supply? 1 lakh worth of supply has been made, which is getting covered under RCM. So on this, the GST will be paid by recipient. Let us say 18% is the applicable rate of GST. 18,000 will be paid by the recipient under RCM. So this 1 lakh worth of supply has taken place now. It should be included in host turnover. Should it be included in the supplier's turnover or should it be included in the recipient's turnover? You tell me, should it be included in the supplier's turnover or should it be included in the recipient's turnover? Sir, recipient is paying the GST. No, I will include it in my recipient's turnover. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. It should be included in the turnover of the supplier. It should be included in the turnover of the supplier. So that's what they say here. If you read it, if you are receiving any inward supplies on which you are paying tax under RCM, that will not get included in your turnover because you are a recipient to that. It will get included in the turnover of the supplier, whoever has made that supply. Understood? So this is what you have to remember, what is included, what is excluded. And few more things here. This aggregate turnover, when I say aggregate means what? Total. Aggregate turnover, it should be computed on all India basis. On overall India basis, you have to calculate this turnover. If you are having multiple places of business in multiple states, aggregated total turnover, you have to take it. It includes all supplies made by taxable person, whether on his own account or even on behalf of principal. Even if you are making the supply as an agent on behalf of your principal, that will be included in your turnover only. So it includes the supplies which are made on your own account. It also includes the supplies which are made on behalf of principals. So everything will be included in the aggregate turnover. So first of all, sir, why are we discussing aggregate turnover? Because under section number 22, they told that every supplier of goods or services is liable for registration when his aggregate turnover exceeds applicable threshold limit. So we got the clarity how to calculate the aggregate turnover. But once we have calculated aggregate turnover, that you have to match with applicable threshold limit. When my aggregate turnover has exceeded the applicable threshold limit, then I have to apply for registration. Now the next question what you will get is, sir, what is this applicable threshold limit? What is this applicable threshold limit? For that, I have summarized all this discussion. For that, I have this summary available. So let us try to have a look at it. I have tried to prepare one chart so that you all will feel comfortable for the purpose of remembrance. Okay, so just give me 1 minute. Let me separate this. Yeah. So let us see here. What is the applicable threshold limit for registration? So in case of determining applicable threshold limit for registration, you have to follow one system. I will give you steps. These steps you have to follow as it is even in the exam also. In case if they are asking you a question regarding whether the person is liable for registration or not, you have to determine whether a person will be liable for registration or not. While determining what is his applicable threshold limit, you have to follow the same system. You have to follow the same steps, whatever I'm going to tell you now. So what are that steps which I will be required to follow? Number one, first you need to check, is that person making any taxable supply from MMNT? First you need to check, is he making any taxable supply from MMNT? If he is making exempt supply, ignore. But you have to check only if he is making any taxable supply from MMNT. Sir, what is MMNT? Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura. Remember it, guys. This you have to remember it. So what are the 4 states? Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura. So first thing what you have to check is, to determine the applicable threshold limit, you need to check, is the person making any taxable supply from MMNT, Manipur, Mizoram, Nagaland, Tripura, from any of these 4 special category states? Are they making any taxable supply? If the answer is yes, yes, you got the answer as yes. Then whether they are engaged in supply of goods, or they are engaged in supply of services, or if they are making supply of both. They might be engaged in supply of goods also, they might be engaged in supply of services also, whatever they might be doing. In case if they are making any taxable supply from MMNT, whether they are engaged in supply of goods, or they are engaged in supply of services, or they are engaged in supply of both, the applicable threshold limit is always going to be 10 lakhs only. That means if their turnover exceeds, if their aggregate turnover exceeds 10 lakh rupees, then they are liable for registration. Where they have to get registered? Not just in MMNT. From whichever state or union territory they are making a taxable supply, in all that states or union territories, they have to take their registration. Okay, this is the first step. Okay, first step you have checked. There is a business person. He's making supplies. Now first thing you will check whether he making any taxable supply from MMNT. You got the answer as no. No, he's not making any taxable supply from MMNT. Next thing what you have to check is, so first always you have to check this. Next, in case if the first condition is not getting fulfilled, in case if the first step is not getting covered, then only you have to come to the second step. What is it? You need to check whether he making any taxable supply from UP match. Whether he is making any taxable supply from UP match. Sir, what do you mean by UP match here? So once again, these are all mnemonics which I have used it here. So what is UP matches? Uttarakhand, Puducherry, and Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, Telangana, Sikkim. So in case if he is not making any taxable supply from any of this MMNT, then you have to check, is he making any taxable supply from UP match? Only taxable supply you have to check. Is he making any taxable supply from UP match? So what are UP match? Uttarakhand, Puducherry, Meghalaya, Arunachal Pradesh, Telangana, Sikkim. If the answer is yes, yes sir, he is making a taxable supply from UP match, then what will happen? So in case if you have decided that he is making a taxable supply from UP match, then whether he is engaged in supply of goods, or he is engaged in supply of services, or he is engaged in supply of both, the applicable threshold limit will be 20 lakh rupees. So in case if you are making any taxable supply from UP match, so first always you have to check this. If the first condition is not fulfilling, then you come and check the second condition. So in the second condition, yes sir, he is making taxable supply from UP match, then the applicable threshold limit will be 20. Whether you are engaged in supply of goods, or you are engaged in supply of services, or you are engaged in supply of both, always the applicable threshold limit is going to be 20 lakh rupees. If your aggregate turnover exceeds 20 lakh rupees, you will become liable for registration. Sir, where I have to take registration? In every state or union territory from wherever you are making a taxable supply, there you are required to take the registration. Okay, next, coming to the next part. Sir, all other cases, that means even second condition is also not fulfilled. Sir, I am determining my applicable threshold limit. I checked whether am I making any taxable supply from MMNT. The answer is no. Then I have checked, am I making any taxable supply from UP match? The answer is no. Then in all other cases, in case if you are exclusively engaged in supply of goods, you are making only supply of goods. In case if you are exclusively engaged in supply of goods only, you are not making any supply of service, you are exclusively engaged in supply of goods only, then your applicable threshold limit will be 40 lakh rupees. Your applicable threshold limit will be how much? 40 lakh rupees. When you are not making any taxable supply from MMNT, you are not making any taxable supply from UP Mats, and you are only making supply of goods. You are only making supply of goods. You are not making any supply of services. Then the applicable threshold limit will be 40. You are not liable for registration until and unless your aggregate turnover exceeds the 40 lakh rupees of limit. You can enjoy the enhanced threshold limit. This I call it as enhanced threshold limit. The government is giving you advantage. If you are not making taxable supply from MMNT, if you are not making taxable supply from UP Mats, and you are not making any supply of services, then we will let you enjoy the enhanced threshold limit. Excess threshold limit you can enjoy. What is that excess threshold limit? You are not liable for registration unless and until your aggregate turnover exceeds 40 lakh rupees. On the other hand, sir, I am not making any taxable supply from MMNT. I am also not making any taxable supply from UP Mats. But I am not just engaged in making supply of goods, sir. I am also making supply of services. I am also making supply of both. That means I'm making supply of services or I'm making supply of goods as well as services. Then you can't enjoy the enhanced threshold limit. You can only enjoy the 20 lakh rupees of limit. Then your applicable threshold limit will be 20 only, not 40. So this enhanced threshold limit of 40 lakh rupees will become applicable only when you are exclusively engaged in supply of goods, not when you are engaged in supply of services or supply of both. Clear? Able to understand? But however, to this 40 lakh rupees, there are some exceptions. That means sometimes you are not making taxable supply from MMNT. You are also not making any taxable supply from UP Mats. You are exclusively engaged in supply of goods. So practically you should be eligible for 40 lakh rupees of enhanced threshold limit. But in some cases, they will not give you that 40 lakh rupees of threshold limit. They will let you take the applicable threshold limit of only 20 lakh rupees. Sir, what are that exceptions? So if you come back to the material here, so what are that exceptions is when I can't enjoy that enhanced threshold limit of this 40 lakh rupees is, let us see. So if you read it, so as per the notification, it exempts any person exclusively engaged in supply of goods and whose aggregate turnover in the financial year does not exceed 40 lakh rupees. They are not liable for registration. But however, there are some exceptions. That means even though you are exclusively engaged in supply of goods, in some cases, they will not let you enjoy that enhanced threshold limit of 40. Your applicable threshold limit will be restricted only to 20. When, sir? When means if you are a person who is required to take compulsory registration. If you are a person who is required to take compulsory registration under section number 24. We will see in a short while. We are currently at section number 22 now. In a short while, we will be discussing section number 24. There I will be telling you a few category of persons who are liable for compulsory registration. If you are liable for compulsory registration under section number 24, no limit, nothing will be checked. So there you can't anyhow enjoy 40 lakh rupees of limit. Or if you are a person engaged in making supplies, if you are a person engaged in making supplies, when I say making supplies, it could be manufacturing, it could be trading. So either you are manufacturing or you are trading any of these products. They have identified a few products. If you are engaged in making supplies, sir, they are telling making supplies. It doesn't include just trading. It even includes manufacturing. So either you are manufacturing or you are trading any of these 7 products which they have listed. Even you might be exclusively engaged in supply of goods only, but you can't enjoy that enhanced threshold limit of 40. Sir, what are that products, sir, which I should not be making supplies if I want to enjoy that enhanced threshold limit of 40? So number 1, ice cream and other edible ice, whether or not containing cocoa, pan masala, all goods of chapter 24, that is tobacco and manufactured tobacco substitutes. Then fly ash bricks, fly ash aggregates, fly ash blocks, bricks of fossil mills or similar siliceous earth, building bricks, earthen or roofing tiles. This list you have to remember, my dear students. At one more place, I'm going to make you come back and revisit this list, but this list you have to remember. So repeat once along with me. So what are the things, what are the products which you should not be engaged in making supplies if you want to enjoy that enhanced threshold limit of 40? Number 1, ice cream and other edible ice, pan masala, tobacco products, fly ash bricks, fly ash blocks and fly ash aggregates, building bricks and earthen or roofing tiles. And one more thing, bricks of fossil mills and other siliceous earth. So if you are engaged in making supplies of any of the 7 products, then you can't enjoy that enhanced threshold limit of 40. And this point anyhow you have covered. If you are making supplies from UP Mats or MMNT, anyhow your threshold limit will get reduced. And also if you are making any interstate supplies, this you need not separately remember. Why? Because if you are making interstate supply, anyhow you will become liable for compulsory registration. So if you are liable for compulsory registration, no limit will be checked. and even you have opted for voluntary registration. See, some people will be there who will be overexcited. Even though they are not liable for registration, they voluntarily come forward and make an application for registration. If you are voluntarily coming forward and applying for registration, why the limit will be applicable for you? Why we will check the limit for you? We will not check it. No. So these are the exceptions actually. So if you come back here once again, so in case if you are not making supply from MMNT, if you are not making taxable supply from UPMATs, you are exclusively engaged in supply of goods, you can enjoy the threshold limit of 40, but there are some exceptions. In some cases, you can't enjoy that enhanced threshold limit of 40. Only 20 lakh rupees of limit will become applicable. Even I have explained you what are that circumstances where 40 lakh rupees of limit will not become applicable. Understood? Clear and comfortable, everybody? Now, so one more thing here, one more small thing which is important here. Sir, if I am exclusively engaged in supply of goods, then only I can enjoy the threshold limit of 40, no? But one service you can provide. Still you will be considered to be exclusively engaged in supply of goods only. So you told, sir, if I am exclusively engaged in this supply of goods, then only I can enjoy that enhanced threshold limit of 40. That means if I am making supply of services, if I am making supply of any service, I become ineligible for 40 lakh rupees of threshold limit. No. Yes. But one exception. That means one service you can provide, still you can enjoy that enhanced threshold limit of 40 along with goods. So what is that service which is permitted? It is permitted for you to provide the services of giving money as loans or advances or deposits for which you are receiving interest. This service you can provide. That means, let us say, for example, I'm a business person. I'm only dealing in supply of goods. I have some excess money. This excess money I have kept it, I have given it as a loan, or I have kept it as a deposit in the bank for which I will receive interest or discount. Like if you remember the previous session, I have told that even though money is excluded from definition of goods and services, but activities relating to use of money for which a separate consideration is charged, that will be considered as supply of service. So if I keep my money in the bank account or if I give it as a loan, I will receive interest. So that means I'm getting a separate consideration for giving money for use. I'm engaged in supply of services. If I'm engaged in supply of services, I should not be eligible for enhanced threshold limit of 40. But here they have given relaxation. Even if you are providing this kind of service along with the goods, if you are providing this service, which is service giving money as use for which you are receiving interest or deposit, we will still treat you as the person exclusively engaged in supply of goods only. You can still enjoy that applicable threshold limit of 40 lakh rupees. You can still enjoy that applicable threshold limit of 40 lakh rupees. Clear? So these are all the various intricacies associated with the applicable threshold limit and the aggregate turnover. Clear? So this is what regarding section number 22 subsection 1, when a person will become liable for registration. Clear? So I have explained what is aggregate turnover. I have explained what is the applicable threshold limit and where you are required to obtain registration in every state or union territory from wherever you are making a taxable supply. In all that states and union territories, you are required to apply for registration. Understood? Now, this is what regarding 22 subsection 1. Now let us come to other cases where a person will become liable for registration. Under section number 22, we have 22 subsection 3, 22 subsection 2, 22 subsection 3 and 22 subsection 4. They are telling some other cases where a person will become liable for registration. Let us see what are that other cases. Number 1 case, if your aggregate turnover exceeds the applicable threshold limit. So there are other cases also where a person will become liable for registration. Sir, what are that other cases? If you come to 22 subsection 2, they say that if you are a person who is already registered or if you are a person who is already holding a license under an existing law, that means before this GST Act came into picture, I told you already that there used to be various kinds of indirect tax laws. If you are already registered under, at the time when GST has come into picture, if you are already registered under, let us say, excise duty, if you are already registered under state VAT, if you are already registered under service tax, then no limit, nothing will be seen for you. Now, from that appointed day, that is with effect from 1st of July 2017, no limit, nothing will be checked for you. You have to become automatically registered under GST Act. So that's what they say. If you're already registered or if you're already holding a license under an existing law, you shall be liable to be registered under this act with effect from the appointed day. What is appointed day? With effect from 1st of July 2017, you become liable for registration under GST automatically if you're already registered or licensed under earlier tax laws. Next. One more thing, on transfer of business, either because of succession, ownership, change or death of a sole proprietor as a going concern by a registered person. Let us say, for example, there is a person who is registered. Now his business is getting transferred Either he's selling his business, or he's transferring his business, or that business is getting succeeded by his legal hires, or he's a sole proprietor, he expired, his business is getting taken over by his legal representative. So in case of all of these reasons, in case of transfer of business of a registered person, so now whenever he is transferring the business to a new person, now new person, that whoever is transferee is there, he is required to take a separate registration. He is required to apply for registration mandatorily. If a registered person is transferring his business, the transferee is required to take compulsory registration. Now the transferee cannot say, now I will wait till my aggregate turnover exceeds the applicable threshold limit. No. Why? Because you are taking the business as a going concern of another registered person. No. So as a transferee, you become liable for compulsory registration. And one more case also they say here, 22 subsection 4, where they say that in case if the business is getting transferred because of reason of amalgamation or demerger. Let us say, for example, there are two companies X and Y, both are getting amalgamated into XY Limited. Or let us say there is a company AB Limited, it is getting demerged into A Limited and B Limited. Now in case of amalgamation and demerger, so that old companies will be no longer existing. No, they take up new structure, right? In case of amalgamation, the newly amalgamated company is altogether a new company which is different from the previous companies. Even in the case of demerger also, these are newly incorporated companies. That means old company is no longer there. So in case of amalgamation or demerger on account of order of court or tribunal, transferee, that means this resulting companies or this amalgamated companies, they must register. They have to become liable for compulsory registration with effect from date of issue of ROC certificate of incorporation. So incorporating this amalgamated company or incorporating this demerged companies, resulting companies, sorry, the ROC will give certificate of incorporation, no, with effect from the date of that incorporation. They have to get themselves registered. They are liable for registration. That means with effect from the date of ROC certificate of incorporation, within 30 days, they have to submit an application for registration. All that formalities are required to be fulfilled. Understood? Right. So this is what regarding section number 22. So usual cases where a person will become liable for registration. 22 subsection 1 says when your aggregate turnover exceeds the applicable threshold limit. 22 subsection 2 says if you are already registered under existing indirect tax laws. 22 subsection 3 says in case of transfer of business, and 22 subsection 4 says in case of amalgamation or demerger. Right. So this is what regarding section number 22. Now we will go ahead and try to revise section number 24. Sir, what is section number 24, sir? Section number 24 is talking about those circumstances where a person will be liable for compulsory registration. Section number 24 will talk about those circumstances where a person will become liable for compulsory registration. Sir, what do you mean by compulsory registration? Compulsory registration means your turnover, what is your aggregate turnover, whether applicable threshold limit is exceeded or not, all that will not be verified. All that will not be checked. The moment you are falling under section number 24, irrespective of how much turnover you have made, whether your turnover has exceeded the applicable threshold limit or not, that things will not be checked. You become liable for compulsory registration. Sir, which kind of people are they who will become liable for compulsory registration without checking any turnover limits? So the list is given here. If you see, number 1, if you are a person making any interstate taxable supply. So if you are making only intra-state supplies, you can enjoy the threshold limit. If you are making intra-state within the state, within the union territory, if you are making the taxable supplies, then you can enjoy the threshold limit of 10, 20, 40, whatever it is. We have seen it under 22(1). But in case if you are making any interstate taxable supply, so let us say, for example, I'm a person in Andhra Pradesh. I have made a supply to a person located in Tamil Nadu. I made a interstate supply. The moment I made a interstate supply, I become liable for compulsory registration. If I'm making any interstate taxable supply, not exempt guys, if you're making any interstate taxable supply, then you become liable for compulsory registration. But however, two exceptions are there. Even though if I'm a person, if I'm making a interstate taxable supply as per section number 24, I become liable for compulsory registration. But in two cases, they have given the relaxation. What are the two cases where they have given the relaxation? So first point, so if you come here, if you are a person making interstate supply of taxable services, if you are a person making interstate taxable supply of services, then the government told, okay, you are making supply of services, no, service sector is very much booming, no, it is quite not possible for you to make only intrastate supplies. Definitely in case of services, since the services are intangible, you will sit in one state and you will provide the services to another person in another state. Now, if I say if you are making interstate taxable supply, you become liable for compulsory registration. This will discourage the people from providing services. So that's why what they have told, okay, we'll do one thing. So actual rule is if you are making an interstate taxable supply, you become liable for registration. But we will give you one relaxation. What is that relaxation? If you are a person making supply of services, and if you are making interstate taxable supply of services also, still we will not make you liable for compulsory registration. We will give you that threshold limit of 10 or 20. You enjoy the threshold limit of 10 or 20, we will not make you liable for compulsory registration. So that is the first exception. So if you are making interstate supply of services, only for services, my dear students, if you are making interstate supply of services up to 20 lakh rupees or 10 lakh rupees, you are not required to undergo compulsory registration. One more relaxation also they have given. So let us say, for example, I'm a person dealing in goods. If I make interstate supply, I become liable for compulsory registration or not? The relaxation, whatever I have told you, that relaxation is only for services. But in case if I'm making interstate supply of goods, I become liable for compulsory registration or not? Practically, yes. But one category of interstate supply of goods, they have given a relaxation. What is that relaxation is? If you are a person making interstate taxable supply of certain notified goods, which goods, sir? Notified handicraft goods or notified products made by craftsmen predominantly by hand. If you are a person who is making interstate supply of notified handicraft products or notified handmade goods which are predominantly made by hand, then also we will let you enjoy the threshold limit of 20 or 10. Then also we will let you enjoy the threshold limit of 20 or 10. We will not make it compulsory for you to take the compulsory registration. So that is also in goods only for notified handicraft products and notified handmade goods. Only for these two products only they have given relaxation. If you are making interstate supply of notified handicraft goods or notified handmade goods which are predominantly made by hand, then also you can enjoy the threshold limit of 20 or 10. However, these people who are making interstate supply of notified handicraft goods or notified handmade products, they are required to fulfill some conditions. Sir, what are that conditions? Their aggregate value of turnover should not exceed 20 lakh rupees or 10 lakh rupees. And also, these people must have a PAN and they must generate an e-way bill. That is a condition. They must have a PAN and they must generate the e-way bill. Understood? So we are done with one category of person who is liable for compulsory registration and two exceptions for that. Thereafter, one more category of persons who are liable for compulsory registration is CTP. CTP making a taxable supply. If you are a casual taxable person, sir, what is a casual taxable person? I am a person who actually having a place of business in another state. I am coming to some other state where I don't have any fixed place of business. Some expo, some exhibition, something like that is happening. There for 5 days, 10 days, 15 days, something like that, an expo or exhibition is happening. I want to come and participate in that expo or exhibition and I want to make the supply there in that exhibition in another state where I don't have any fixed place of business. So those kind of people we call them as CTP, casual taxable person. Let us say I'm a person in Andhra Pradesh. I have my place of business and all in Andhra Pradesh. I came to know that I'm dealing in electronics. I came to know that in Karnataka, in Bangalore, there is one electronics expo happening. I want to go and participate in that expo and I want to sell some products in my expo. So now for the Karnataka state, I become a CTP. Now, if I become a CTP for the Karnataka state government will not check what is my aggregate turnover, whether I have made aggregate turnover exceeding 10 lakh, 20 lakh, 40 lakhs. They will not check any such limit. The moment if I am becoming a CTP for them, they will ask me to take the compulsory registration and I have to take it. I must take it. So that is the second category of person who is liable for compulsory registration, CTP, making taxable supply. However, here also they have given one exception. Sir, what is that one exception? If you are a person who is a CTP, you are making interstate supplies. You are going to another state and making interstate supply. But if you are a CTP, if you are making interstate taxable supply of certain notified goods, which notified goods? Notified handicraft goods and notified products which are predominantly made by hand. So then also the government has given you relaxation. Okay, boss, you are a CTP, but you are making a interstate supply of notified handicraft goods or notified handmade goods, then also will not let you liable for compulsory registration. Here also you enjoy the threshold limit of 20 or 10. Here also you must have a PAN and you must have generated an e-way bill. If you fulfill these conditions, even though you are a CTP, will give you relaxation. Okay, so second category of persons who is liable for compulsory registration is CTP, and also we have seen related exception. Now, third category of persons who are liable for compulsory registration is if you are a person who is required to pay tax under reverse charge. Under RCM, if you are required to pay GST, then you will be liable for compulsory registration. Under RCM, if you are liable to pay GST, then you are liable to compulsory registration irrespective of your turnover. Like as I was saying, let us say, for example, there are various services on which services we will be liable to pay RCM, that we will cover it in the charge of GST chapter. But I will give you one example, one reference I will give you so that you will get the clarity. Let us say there is an advocate. There is an advocate. So this advocate is providing legal services to a business entity. Legal services to a business entity. Now, this service is one such service which has been notified under RCM. Who is supplier? Advocate is a supplier. Who is recipient? This business entity is a recipient. Now, as per the notification, this service is under RCM. Now, let us say, for example, for providing this legal services, he has charged some 1 lakh rupee. Now, on this service, the recipient is required to pay the GST under RCM. So, he is required to pay that 18% of GST, that is 18,000 rupees of GST is required to pay to the government under RCM. Now, since this recipient is receiving such services on which he is required to pay GST under RCM, he is required to undergo compulsory registration. This recipient is required to undergo compulsory registration. Very simple here. If you have the obligation to pay the amount of GST, if you are not registered, how you will make the payment? Not possible, no? So that's why what they have told is, if a recipient is required to pay the tax under reverse charge mechanism, then no turnover, nothing will be seen for him. He has to undergo compulsory registration. Compulsorily have to register and make the payment under RCM. Here also one exception is there, one relaxation is there. That relaxation has been given to the suppliers. That relaxation has been given to the suppliers. If you are a supplier, if you are making only such outward supplies and all your outward supplies are covered under RCM. If you are a supplier, if you are making outward supply of services, if all your services are getting covered under RCM, if you are such a supplier, whatever services you are providing, whatever outward supplies you are making, not just services, whatever outward supplies you are making, if all your outward supplies are covered under RCM, on all your outward supplies, your recipients only will pay the amount of GST. You don't have even a single supply which is taxable under forward charge mechanism. You don't have a single supply which is taxable under forward charge mechanism. Then what is the purpose of this person to take the registration? Even though his aggregate turnover has exceeded the applicable threshold limit, will there be any purpose if he takes the registration? No purpose. Why? Because you are such a supplier, you are making only such kind of outward supplies where all such outward supplies are covered under RCM. On all your outward supplies, your recipients will anyhow pay the amount of GST. You don't have any obligation to pay the amount of GST only. So then this supplier is also exempted from taking registration. He is not required to take registration even if his aggregate turnover exceeds the applicable threshold limit. Able to understand? So RCM, in case of RCM, on recipient, they have put the responsibility of compulsory registration. But for exemption, they are thinking from the supplier's perspective. If you are a supplier, making outward supplies and all your outward supplies are covered under reverse charge mechanism. On all your outward supplies, your recipient only will make the payment of GST. As a supplier, you don't have a single outward supply on which you are required to collect the GST from your recipient and make the payment to the government. If you are such a supplier, you have been granted relaxation from registration. Even though your aggregate turnover exceeds the applicable threshold limit, you are not liable for registration. Understood? So that's what they try to say it here. So this is 23. This is the exception which I have already covered it. So this one, persons making only reverse charge supplies. If you are a supplier, you are making exclusively supplying goods or services where tax is payable by your recipients under 9 subsection 3, then you are exempted from registration. Okay, right. Coming to the next few things here. One more category of persons who is liable for compulsory registration is NRTP. If you are an NRTP, you are also liable for compulsory registration. Sir, now who is this NRTP, sir? Same like CTP only, but in case of NRTP, he is a person from outside of India. He's a non-resident. So a person from outside of India who doesn't have fixed place of business in India, he came to India for making some supply. So he will become NRTP. Like let us say, for example, these IPL players. IPL matches are going now. So for this IPL, the people from these players from outside of India will come and participate and play in that IPL match for this 1 month, 2 month and all. So these IPL players, do they have any fixed place of business in India? No. Temporarily they are coming, non-residents, temporarily they are coming to India and they perform some services and they will go back. They will fall under NRTP. They will fall under NRTP. So these kind of NRTPs are also liable for compulsory registration. Then e-commerce operator. Today in each and every aspect of our life, which has become the part and parcel of our life, is e-commerce business. So now e-commerce operators are also liable for compulsory registration. And two kinds of e-commerce operators they have told. Number one, e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS under section 52. liable for compulsory registration. And e-commerce operator who is required to pay the GST under 9 subsection 5. What are this? This we are going to cover it in the subsequent chapters. Just I will tell you here which kind of e-commerce operators are liable for compulsory registration. But whatever section references I am giving here, those section references we will see it in our subsequent chapters. So what they have told, which kind of e-commerce operators are liable for compulsory registration? Every e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS under section number 52, liable for compulsory registration. And every e-commerce operator who is required to pay the GST under 9 subsection 5, then also they are required to undergo compulsory registration. Not just that, even they have told one more thing. So let us say if you are an e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS under section number 52, you are liable for compulsory registration. The supplier, whoever is making supply of goods or services through you, if there is any supplier who is making the supply of goods or services through the e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS under section number 52, even that supplier is also liable for compulsory registration. E-commerce operator anyhow liable for compulsory registration. But if you are a supplier of goods or services who is making supply of services or goods through the e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS under section number 52, even these suppliers are also liable for compulsory registration. But however, for these suppliers in the recent times, the government has given relaxation. So what relaxation they have given is, for normal suppliers, whatever exceptions they are giving, the same exceptions they have given it to them as well. So what are that normal exceptions given to suppliers? If you are a person making supply of services, whether interstate or intrastate, you can enjoy the threshold limit of the 20 or 10. Initially, they told if you are a supplier making supply of goods or services through the e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS under section number 52, you are liable for compulsory registration. That's what they have told initially. But thereafter, they have given some exceptions. To the suppliers, they have given exceptions. What exceptions? Whatever exceptions they are giving to normal suppliers, they have given exceptions for those suppliers who are providing goods or services through e-commerce operator also. Like if you are a person making supply of services, so if you come to the E and F point here, if you are a person making supply of services through an e-commerce operator, you are not liable for compulsory registration. You can enjoy the threshold limit of 20 or 10. Whether you are making interstate supplies or intrastate supplies, you can enjoy the threshold limit of 20 or 10. Similarly, if you are a person making supply of goods, but you should be making only intrastate supply of the goods. Why? Because if you are a normal supplier, if you make any interstate supply, you become liable for compulsory registration, no? So even if you are a supplier making supply of goods through the e-commerce operator, okay, you are not liable for compulsory registration. You can enjoy the threshold limit of 40, 20, 10. If you're a person exclusively engaged in supply of goods, you can enjoy the threshold limit of 40, 20 or 10. But the condition is you should not make any interstate supplies. You can make only intrastate supplies. Why? Because anyhow, if you are a person making interstate supply, you become liable for compulsory registration under another point of section number 24. The same thing they are trying to say it here. Clear? So I will come back to this point later. I will come back to this e-commerce related discussion later. But for the time being now, I just want you to remember, because e-commerce related discussion, it is going to come around various places. In charge of GST, we will try to cover what is 9 subsection 5. In TDS TCS chapter, we are going to cover section number 52. We'll try to come back to this. But for the time being now, what is it you have to remember? E-commerce operator who is liable for registration, compulsory registration. E-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS under section number 52. E-commerce operator who is required to pay the GST under 9 subsection 5. Not just that, any suppliers who are making supply of goods or services through such e-commerce operators who is required to collect TCS under section number 52, those suppliers are also liable for compulsory registration. But for these suppliers, subsequently they have given relaxation. What relaxation they have given? Whatever relaxations which are available for normal suppliers, the same relaxations they have given even for suppliers making supply of goods or services through the e-commerce operator also. Okay, so just much you have to remember it. So this is regarding e-commerce operator. Now going forward, next few categories of the people who are required to obtain compulsory registration is the person who is required to collect TCS under section number 51. If you are a person, there are some people, we will see once again in the TDS TCS chapter, there are certain category of the persons who are required to deduct TDS. So if you are a person falling under that person who is required to deduct TDS under section number 51, you are required to get separately registered, mandatory registration. And if you are an agent making a taxable supply of goods or services on behalf of another taxable person, this is very important. So what is this is, if you are a person, if you are making a taxable supply on behalf of a principal who should be a taxable person. So the agents are required to undergo compulsory registration. Simply that's what they try to say it here. But which kind of agents? You must be such an agent who should be making a taxable supply, and your principal must be a taxable person. If you are an agent making taxable supply on behalf of your taxable person, on behalf of the principal who is a taxable person, then only those agents are liable for compulsory registration. Which means, let us say, for example, you are an agent, your principal is a taxable person, but you are making an exempt supply. You are making an exempt supply. Will you be liable for compulsory registration? No. On the other hand, let us say you are an agent, you are making a taxable supply on behalf of your principal who is not a taxable person. Are you liable for compulsory registration? No. So agents will become liable for compulsory registration when two conditions are fulfilled. Number one, you should be making a taxable supply on behalf of a taxable principal. So when only both conditions are fulfilled, then only those agents will become liable for compulsory registration. Number one, they should be making a taxable supply on behalf of a taxable person. Next, few more categories of the persons who are liable for compulsory registration. So if we start seeing it here, every person who is making an OIDR service, every person whoever is supplying OIDR services from a place outside of India to a person in India other than registered person. Like for example, we have this Netflix, Amazon Prime, Google Cloud. All these are examples of OIDR services. So not important for CA Inter. These provisions will try to learn it at the CA final level. OIDR services are not as a part of CA Inter services, CA Inter syllabus. It is there as a part of our CA final. There will try to learn it. But here you have to remember, if you are a person supplying OIDR services from a place outside of India to a person in India who is not a registered person, then you are liable for compulsory registration. So this Netflix, Amazon Prime, these are all liable to compulsory registration in India. Then ISD, there is a concept called input service distributor. They are also required to undergo compulsory registration. Once again, a CA final topic, not relevant for CA inter level. Just you have to remember, like this one category of person is there who is liable for compulsory registration. And every person supplying online money gaming from a place outside of India. So if you are a person supplying services of online money gaming, then also you'll be liable for compulsory registration. Once again, relevant for CA final. Or such other persons or class of persons as may be notified by the government on the recommendations of the council. Not just the above list, the government can also notify some other class of persons, some other categories of the persons who may be liable for compulsory registration. So this is what regarding section number 24. So we are done with the two sections. Section number 22, normal liability for registration. Section number 24, compulsory registration. Along with that, a bunch of section 23 also we have covered. Like all these exceptions, whatever I have told, those people who are exempted from taking registration, these are all actually from section number 23. So what is section number 23 saying is, when a person will not become liable for registration. When a person will not become liable for registration. That means even though your aggregate turnover has exceeded the applicable threshold limit, you are not liable for registration. So who are that lucky fellows who are not liable for registration? Who are that category of persons who are exempted from taking registration? If you see here, number one, if you are a person engaged exclusively in business of supplying goods or services which are not liable to tax or wholly exempt from tax. Let us say I'm running a bar. In the bar, I'm selling only alcoholic liquor for human consumption. I'm selling alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Let us say I made 1 crore of turnover with that bar, where I am selling only alcoholic liquor for human consumption. Sir, my aggregate turnover has exceeded applicable threshold limit. Am I required to take registration? No, not required. Why? Because even if you take the registration also, you are not having any liability to pay. You are not having any liability to pay to the government. No. Why? Because all your supply is a non-taxable supply. Understood? Let us say if I am running a petrol pump. Where I am selling this diesel petrol, I made, let us say, 5 crores of turnover. My aggregate turnover has exceeded the applicable threshold limit. Am I required to take registration? Not required. Why? Because even though your aggregate turnover has exceeded the applicable threshold limit, you don't have any obligation to pay the GST. No. So that's why not required to take registration. Or let us say, for example, I'm making only exempt supplies. Let us say I'm a charitable entity. I'm doing only charitable activities. So which are actually an exempt supply. Or let us say, for example, I'm running a school. See, school activities are exempted up to secondary higher education. It is exempted. So I'm running a school in which I have made 2 crores of turnover. So your aggregate turnover has exceeded 2 crore rupees. Are you liable for registration? Not required. Why? Because you don't have any obligation to pay to the government, because whatever services you are offering, that is exempted. You don't have any obligation to pay. What is the purpose of taking registration? So that's what they say here. If you are a person, even if your aggregate turnover has exceeded the applicable threshold limit, but if you are exclusively engaged in supplying goods or services which are either not liable to tax or which are wholly exempt from tax, then you are not liable to take any registration. Similarly, even an agriculturist, even they have given relaxation for agriculturist also, to the extent of supply of produce out of cultivation of land. If you are an agriculturist and if you are making supply out of cultivation of land, from doing cultivation, you will get, you from doing cultivation of land, you will get the agricultural produce. No, you are making supply of only that agricultural produce, and you are an agriculturist. No need to take any registration because all that is exempted. So that's what they say here. First of all, who is agriculturist? We have to understand who is agriculturist. So agriculturist status can be given only to individual or HUF. Agriculturist status has been given only for individual or HUF. Let us say, for example, a group of people have come forward, created a partnership firm, and in the name of the partnership firm, they are carrying out the agricultural activity. Can they be exempted from registration? Absolutely not. Why? Because as per the GST, agriculturist status can be acquired only by individual or HUF. And who is taking the cultivation of land either by using their own labor or by using their family's labor or by appointing some servants or hired labor under your personal supervision or supervision of your family members. So the only they can enjoy the status of agriculturist. And also till the time they are doing cultivation of land, till the time they are making supply of produce out of cultivation of land, then only they can enjoy the exemption. Let us say, for example, there is a farmer who is selling the agricultural produce. Along with that, he is also running a rice mill, and rice also he is selling. Rice is not an agricultural produce. Rice is not an agricultural produce. Paddy is an agricultural produce, but rice is not. So if he is selling rice, then he will be liable for registration. Why? Because an agriculturist is exempted from taking registration only to the extent of supply out of cultivation of land. If you are making any other supply other than cultivation of land, then you can't enjoy the relaxation here. You become liable for registration if your aggregate turnover exceeds the applicable threshold limit. Clear? Then whatever is there in 23 subsection 2, that all I have already covered along with section number 24 compulsory registration. So but whatever it is, these are the specifically, if I have to say two things here, if you are a person exclusively engaged in making wholly exempt supply or non-taxable supply, or if you are an agriculturist making supply out of cultivation of land, then you are exempted from taking registration. Understood. So we have covered section number 22, 23, 24, all the three sections we have covered. Now we will talk about collectively section number 25, 26, 27, where procedural formalities will be there. In all the procedural formalities, I will try to tell you a few important things here. Okay. First of all, sir, within what time limit I have to apply for registration? Within what time limit? Let us say if I become liable for registration, either under section number 22 or under section number 24, if I become liable for compulsory registration, you are saying that I have to get myself registered. But I have to submit an application. No, what is the time limit within which I am required to submit an application for registration? So they say that if you are a person liable for registration under section number 22 or 24, then where I am required to get myself registered, in every state or union territory, wherever you are making a taxable supply, there you have to submit an application. Within how many days, sir? Within 30 days from the date on which he becomes liable for registration. Within whatever date you become liable for registration, within 30 days, you have to submit an application for registration. Okay. In case if it is a CTP or NRTP, then also he is required to submit an application for registration in every state or union territory from wherever he is making taxable supply. But for CTP or NRTP, it is not within 30 days. You have to submit an application for registration even 5 days prior to commencement of business. At least 5 days prior to the commencement of business. So for a normal person liable for registration under 22-24, in every state or union territory from wherever you are making a taxable supply, you have to submit an application for registration. What is the time limit, sir? Within 30 days from the date you become liable for registration. But if you are a CTP or NRTP, the time limit of 30 days will not be given to you. Even 5 days prior to the commencement of your business itself, you have to submit an application for registration. Now you might get it out, sir. Sometimes the person may be making a supply from territorial waters. No, let us say, for example, I hope you are able to remember the territorial waters. I told you definition of India. Territorial waters means up to 12 nautical miles. So let us say this is India. Here we have Goa. See, in Goa, you will be very often able to find these casinos. But those casinos will not be there on land. They will be in the territorial waters. So in the territorial waters, there will be a cruise ship. In that cruise ship, they will run that casinos. So these people is running a casino. Let us say, for example, we have this thing called Big Daddy, Casino Royal. So like that, some popular casinos are there. So there is some Big Daddy casino, which is operating in the territorial waters up to 10, within 10 nautical miles. They're operating in the water. They will run these casinos. Their aggregate turnover has exceeded the applicable threshold limit. they are liable for registration. They have to submit an application for registration. Sir, with which state or union territory they will submit an application, sir? GST registration is state-wise. So you have to submit an application for registration. Sir, with which state or union territory they have to submit an application for registration? The act says the nearest coastal line. From the coastal line, whatever is the nearest state or union territory, with that state or union territory, they have to submit an application for registration. Let us say for this casino, the nearest coastal state is Goa. Nearest coastal state is Goa. So they have to submit an application for registration with the Goa state government within 30 days of becoming liable for registration. Clear? So that is what this point, person making supply from territorial waters in coastal state or where they have to submit an application for registration in such a coastal state or union territory where the nearest point of appropriate baseline is located. And here also within 30 days, usual time limit will become applicable. Then state-wise registration, all this discussion I have already explained it. Generally, if you remember that supply related discussion, there itself I have told, if you're having multiple places of business in same state, you can operate them under single registration. If you want, even you can get separate registration also. And in case of multiple states, you have to get yourself registered in all the states or union territories. So like that, all this discussion we have already had it, and it is just a repetition. And if at all you are not liable for registration, but voluntarily you are coming forward and getting yourself registered, government will be very happy. They will grant you the voluntary registration also. Distinct persons or establishment of distinct persons. This also we have already covered it in the supply chapter itself. Who are distinct persons? What are establishments of distinct person? I have covered it in supply chapter itself. And one of the most important thing, PAN is very much essential. PAN is compulsory for obtaining GST registration, but one exception, NRTP need not have a PAN. For NRTP, even without PAN also, by submitting other documents, they can grant him registration. And there is one more small concept called UIN. Sir, what is this UIN? So UIN is a special kind of registration. See, for some people, who are that some people? United Nations organizations, multilateral financial institutions and organizations which are notified under UN, and foreign consulates, embassies of foreign countries, or any other persons notified by commissioner. They are required to obtain something called UIN, not GSTIN. They are required to obtain something called UIN. Who, sir? These people. Who are that people? United Nations organizations, multilateral financial institutions, foreign embassies, foreign consulates. These people also will submit an application, but not for application of GSTIN, but for getting one registration number called UIN. Sir, what is the purpose of this UIN, sir? What is this is? Let us say, for example, US Embassy in India is there. They provide various outward supplies. See, all their outward supplies are exempted. In exemption chapter, we will see whatever services which are provided by the foreign embassies, foreign consulates and all, their outward services are exempt. And they will buy inward services. Inward supplies will be there. On their inward supplies, they might have already paid the GST. These US embassies or United Nations multilateral financial organizations who are having their place in India, their outward supplies are exempt. But they will receive various inputs or input services for running their operations. On all that, they might have paid the GST. But they will not be able to use it. Why? Because they don't have any output tax liability only. Their outward services are exempted. But they will have paid their GST on all their inward supplies. No. So now what this US embassies or this United Nations organizations they can do is they will get a registration with they will apply for one registration and they will get one unique number called UIN. Now using that UIN, they can file one return and they can claim the refund of all the taxes, whatever they have paid on their inward supplies. So for claiming a refund of GST, whatever they have paid on their inward supplies, these organizations will obtain one separate registration called UIN. Okay, so this much you remember. And this UIN is not state-wise registration. This UIN is a centralized UIN. So if you obtain registration at one place, it will be applicable all over India. Like GSTN, you need not have separate state-wise registration. Only one centralized UIN you will have. Next. Suo motu registration. Sometimes what will happen is you are liable for registration, but you are not obtaining registration. PO has come for inquiry, inspection, survey, and he found out that even though you are liable for registration, you have not taken the registration, then he will grant you temporary registration. Now, on granting the temporary registration, as a business person, what you should do is either you should submit an application for registration within 90 days. He came for survey, inspection and all. He granted you temporary registration. Now, in response, what you should do? Within 90 days, you either have to submit an application for registration. Or if you want to challenge, you are feeling that no, you are not liable for registration, that person is wrong, you go for an appeal. So either of this thing you have to do. Either you apply for registration within 90 days or submit an appeal. Now, in appeal also, if you lost, if you have gone for appeal, even if that appellate authority has also decided that no, you are liable for registration, then you don't have any other option. Within 30 days from the date of order of that appellate authority, you have to submit an application for registration. Okay, next. Sir, what is the procedure for registration and all? Here I have told you this procedure already. I have presented it in the form of the chat. This you can refer to it. So just a procedural formality, like you have to fill two parts, GST REG01 part A, part B, and all you have to fill. So this all procedural formality already I have put it in the form of the chat. This you can refer to it. Now this is where the procedural registrations will come here. So this part 2 I will explain. So once you submitted an application for registration, verification should happen. So how the verification will happen? So once it will be forwarded to PO. Now PO, if he finds that everything is in order, PO, if he finds that if you have submitted all your information in a correct manner in your application, if he found that everything is in order, he will grant you registration certificate. Sir, within what time limit he will grant me registration certificate? If you are a good fellow, if you have successfully done the Aadhaar authentication, within 7 working days only you will get the registration certificate. Within 7 working days you will get the registration certificate if you have successfully done the Aadhaar authentication. On the other hand, if you have not opted for Aadhaar authentication, or if you have opted but you did not successfully undergo for the Aadhaar authentication, or PO on the basis of risk parameters he finds necessary to carry out the site verification, in those cases, department can take their own sweet time. They can grant you the registration certificate within 30 days. If you are non-risky case, you have successfully done the Aadhaar authentication, within 7 working days of submitting the application, you will get the registration certificate. But in case if you have not opted for Aadhaar authentication, or if you have not successfully done the Aadhaar authentication, or PO deems it fit necessary to carry out your site verification, then the department can take 30 days of time for granting you the registration certificate. On the other hand, if your document is not in order, if your application is not in order, that means you did not submit some correct details, then what will happen is, then PO will issue notice electronically. First he will issue the notice. Sir, within how many days he can issue the notice? Same. If you have done successfully Aadhaar authentication and all, within 7 working days he can give the notice. If you have not done the Aadhaar authentication, then he can issue the notice within 30 days also. Within 30 days he can issue the notice. But if you have successfully done the Aadhaar authentication, within 7 days only he will give you the notice. Whatever it is, either within 7 days or 30 days, once you get the notice, you have to reply. Within 7 working days, you have to reply back. If you are not replying within 7 working days, directly he will reject your application for registration. If you have replied it within 7 days, now PO will check whether your reply is satisfactory. If he is satisfied with the reply, or if he is not satisfied with the reply, you have given reply within 7 days, but PO is not satisfied with the reply, then also he will reject your application. But if you have submitted the reply, if he is satisfied with your reply, then the PO will grant the registration certificate within 7 working days. Able to understand? Clear and comfortable? So this tentative timelines you have to remember. That's all. So this is this thing regarding procedural formality we will try to cover. Remaining we have discussion regarding Aadhaar authentication and all. Just you can have a quick look at it. What is Aadhaar authentication and all? You can have a quick look at it. Not that important from the examination perspective. So that's why I'm proceeding ahead with the important concepts here. Now what will happen? You will get the registration certificate. Generally within 3 days after the grant of registration, you will get it, and you will get one GSTIN number. You will get a GSTIN number which will contain PAN. Mainly it will be PAN, and state code will be there. You will have entity code and checksum character will be there. And whatever your registration certificate they have given, that has to be displayed. Sir, where I have to display it? That will be displayed on the common portal, and that GSTIN you have to mention on your registration. That GSTIN you have to mention at your principal place of business and also at your additional place of business. Even on the name board also you have to mention it. Now the most important part here is effective date of registration. Sir, what will be the effective date of registration? This is very important because it will have a connection with various other chapters. So let us have connection. This is going to have connection with other chapters. Let us try to understand what is the effective date of registration. So I told you that within 30 days you are liable to, you are required to submit an application. No, let us say for example, I became liable for registration on 5th of January. I submitted an application for registration on 30th of January. I became liable for registration on 5th of January. I submitted my application for registration on 30th of January. Within 30 days or not? Yes. Thereafter, your application will be verified and one fine day registration certificate will be granted. Let us say for example, GST registration certificate was granted on, let us say 25th of February, the registration certificate was granted. Now what will be my effective date of registration? They say that even though you are getting your registration certificate here, your registration will be effective retrospectively. From the date whenever you become liable for registration, from that date itself, your registration will be effective. It will have a retrospective effectiveness. When if you are submitting your application within 30 days, even though you are getting your registration certificate at a later point of time, but your registration will be effective retrospectively from the date you become liable for registration. From the date itself, your registration will be effective. On the other hand, if you are not submitting the application within 30 days of your liability, let us say I become liable for registration on 5th of January. I submitted my application on 10th of February. After 30 days, I have submitted the application. Thereafter, I got my registration certificate on 25th of February. Now your registration will be effective from the date of grant of registration certificate only. It will not have any retrospective effectiveness. So from here itself, it will become effective. Understood? Clear? So this effective date you have to remember. The same thing I have put it here. Within 30 days from the date a person become liable for registration, if you are submitting an application, then on whatever date you become liable for registration, from that retrospectively your registration will be effective. If you are submitting your application after 30 days from the date you are becoming liable for registration, then the date of grant of registration certificate will become the effective date of registration. Understood? Next. Then comes the next part. In case of CTP and NRTP, there is a separate registration requirement applicable. I have already explained what is CTP, what is NRTP and all. Now, what is the special procedure for registration of CTP and NRTP is they have to, one point we already know, one special point we already know. Here, the department will not wait for you to submit the application within 30 days. Even 5 days prior to the commencement of your business only, you are required to submit an application for registration. This is already, we know it. Even 5 days prior to the commencement of business, you have to submit your registration. And one more important point here is you have to make an advance deposit of tax. CTP and NRTP, 5 days prior to your application, 5 days prior to your commencement of business, you have to submit your application for registration. But not just that, even you have to make an advance deposit of tax. For whatever duration you are going to run your business, for that duration, what will be your estimated tax liability? That estimated tax liability you have to calculate, and even you have to make the advance deposit of the tax. Very important here. So if you see, while submitting the registration application, CTP and NRTP must make an advance deposit of tax of their estimated tax liability. You will, when you submitted an application, a TRN will be generated. No, using that TRN, you have to make an advance deposit of tax. And once you are done with your business, you will submit your final returns and all. Now they will check. Let us say, for example, if your actual tax liability is more than your advance deposit, pay that excess amount. No, sir, my advance deposit is more than my actual tax liability. They will give it to you as refund. You can claim it as refund, no issue. Clear? So this is what regarding advance deposit. Now, one more important point is, sir, what is the period of validity? How long that registration of CTP or NRTP will be valid? So they say that CTP or NRTP registration will be valid either for the period specified in the registration application or 90 days from the effective date of registration, whichever is earlier. So either if you want registration only for 30 days, so either 30 days or maximum 90 days, whichever is earlier, 30 days. Let us say you are applying for registration, you are asking for registration for 120 days, but maximum they will give you only 90 days. So 90 days. So either period specified in the registration application or 90 days from the effective date of registration. But however, in case if you are, let us say initially you have taken 90 days of registration, but thereafter you want to extend that registration of CTP or NRTP. Can you do it? Yes, you can do it. You can make an application, and even when at the time of making an application for extension, at that time also for that extended period, you have to calculate your estimated tax liability, and that estimated tax liability, once again you have to make an advance deposit. Once again, you have to make an advance deposit. So that's what they say it here. 90 days maximum. First, in the first application, they will give you 90 days, but that can be extended further by period, not exceeding further 90 days by making an application before end of the validity of the registration. So first you have got 90 days before expiry of that period. If you feel that no, I want my extension, I want registration to be extended for a few more days, you can make an application for extension. For further 90 days, they can give an extension. But once again, you have to make for that extended period advance deposit of tax. If you do that, then only they will extend it. Next, deemed registration. If you are registered under SGST Act, you will be automatically registered under CGST Act also. No need to make a separate application with the central government. Or if your registration is rejected under SGST Act, your application will be automatically rejected under CGST Act also. Next. This is regarding TDS provisions. Even the person who is required to collect TCS and even a person who is required to deduct TDS, they are also required to get registration, but they have a special registration for them. Within 3 working days only, the registration certificate will be granted. So this you remember, TDS with 3 working days only they will get the registration, not like usual 7 days and all. But who is this TDS deductor? Who is this TCS collector? We have a dedicated chapter talking about it. So this is what regarding procedure for registration. So 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27 till here we are done. Now we will come to section number 28. Sir, I have made an application for registration. I have got my registration certificate also. I've got my registration certificate also, but I want to amend my details in the registration certificate. I got my registration certificate. No, in my registration certificate, some details I want to amend. So what is the procedure I have to follow for amendment of registration? Now, when you want to amend the details in your registration certificate, we will identify the fields, whatever details are there in your registration certificate, that we will bifurcate into 2 categories: core fields, non-core fields. Whatever details which are there in your registration certificate which you want to amend, that we will bifurcate into 2 categories, either core fields or non-core fields. See, if it is a core field, the procedure is lengthy. For amending that core fields, you need permission, you need approval of proper officer and all. But in case if you want to amend your non-core fields, nothing, no approval, nothing is required. Just you submit an application, automatically it will be amended. For core fields, you need an amendment, you need approval of the PO and all. But for non-core fields, approval of PO, nothing is required. Just you submit an application, automatically the details will be amended. But you will get it out, sir, what is a core field? What is a non-core field? So that we have identified it here. Core fields are name of business, legal name without change in PAN. PAN should not change. If you want to change your PAN, then you can't do amendment. You have to cancel this registration. You have to apply for new registration. PAN related changes, you can't do it through amendment. If you want to change the PAN without changing the PAN, if you want to change the name, it is fine. But if you want to change the PAN, let us say, for example, proprietorship is getting converted to partnership. Can I amend, sir? No, you can't amend. You have to cancel the proprietor's registration and you have to apply for fresh registration in the name of the partnership firm. So PAN changes you can't carry out through amendment. Very important point. And even addition or deletion of stakeholders, like addition of partners, addition of directors, addition of Karta, managing committee. So these additions of the stakeholders you can do, additions or deletions of the stakeholders. That is also a core field. Principal place of business, additional place of business. That is also a core field, provided they are within the same state. If you are changing your address of either principal place of business or additional place of business within the same state, you can do amendment. If you want to update your principal place of business or additional place of business to another state, there also you can't do amendment. You have to take a fresh registration in the new state. Okay, so these are core fields: name of the business, details of the stakeholders, principal place of business, additional place of business. There are some non-core fields. What are non-core fields? All other fields like name of day-to-day functionaries, email IDs, mobile numbers, all this will form part of non-core fields. Now, what is the procedure for amendments, sir? Very simple. As I've told, if it is a non-core area, just you have to go to the GST portal. You have to submit an application for amendment of non-core fields. Automatically, the registration certificate will get amended. No approval, nothing will be required. On the other hand, if it is a core area, there is one procedure. What is it? You have to submit an application within 15 days of changes. Whatever that changes have happened in the core fields, within 15 days you have to submit an application. If PO is of the opinion that amendment is unwarranted or documents are incomplete, if he feels that documents are incomplete, if the answer is yes, document is incomplete or incorrect, within 15 working days of receipt of application, he will give you show cause notice. Boss, you have submitted details of amendment, but it is not looking appropriate. So he will give you first a show cause notice why your amendment application should not be rejected. So if registered person replies to the notice within 7 working days, and if the reply is satisfactory, then he will amend the certificate. If the reply is either he is not giving reply, but he is giving reply, but that reply is not satisfactory, then application for amendment will be rejected. This when you submitted an application for amendment and it is incorrect, then all this show cause notice, reply and all will happen. In case if you submitted the application, PO didn't find any mistakes, he finds that application is complete, then he will directly give the approval and the registration certificate will get amended. In case if the application is incorrect or incomplete, then only the show cause notice, all this headache will come. If you have correctly submitted the application and if you have uploaded all the supporting documents in a proper way, then no show cause notice, nothing. PO will approve it. Automatically the registration certificate will get amended. Understood? Right. So this is what regarding procedure for amendment. So now we will talk about section number 29 and section number 30, the last 2 sections from the registration chapter. Section number 29 will be talking about cancellation of registration. See, whatever registration that you have obtained, that registration can be even cancelled also. And there are 2 ways for cancellation. Either as a registered person, you voluntarily can make an application for cancellation of your registration. if you are a registered person, you yourself might want to cancel your registration. There might be a number of reasons why you might voluntarily want to cancel your registration. Might be you're discontinuing your business, might be you're transferring your business, might be you're no longer liable for registration. In those cases, either you will submit an application or PO also can initiate the action for cancelling your registration. But specifically, there are some certain circumstances where PO on suo motu basis, where proper officer on suo motu basis, he can proceed ahead to cancel your registration. So two circumstances where either you or PO can cancel registration. Then there will be other category of circumstances where proper officer on suo motu basis, he can proceed ahead to cancel your registration. Sir, when that second scenario will come, sir? When the second scenario will come is when you have done some violations. When you have done some violations, then only the PO will take that second course. That means on suo motu basis, he will cancel your registration. So let us see first circumstances. What are the circumstances where the registered person himself can make an application for cancellation? And what are that circumstances where the proper officer on suo motu basis, he can proceed ahead to cancel your registration? Let us see those circumstances first. So first I will talk about the circumstances where the registration can be cancelled either suo motu by the proper officer or on an application made by the registered person or legal heirs. In case of death of a person, their legal heirs can make an application for cancellation. These are genuine reasons where either you yourself or PO can cancel the registration. What are they? Number one, you are discontinuing your business. Number two, you are transferring your business fully for any reason, including the death of the proprietor. Or your business is getting amalgamated with other entity. Or if there is a demerger happening, or you are disposing of your business. Or if there is a change in constitution of business, like for example, proprietorship firm is getting converted to partnership firm. So now this proprietorship firm's registration has to be cancelled and partnership firm will get a new registration. And taxable person who is no longer liable to be registered under section number 22 or 24, or who intends to opt out of voluntary registration. So if you are a person, you decided that no, my aggregate turnover is not exceeding my applicable threshold limit, or I used to do some activities under section number 24 which made me liable for compulsory registration, but I no longer do it. So that means you are no longer liable for registration either under section number 22 or section number 24. Then you can submit an application. Or if you have taken voluntary registration, now you have realized your mistake, you want to cancel your registration, then also you can submit your application. So these are the circumstances where either the registered person himself or PO, any of them can proceed ahead and cancel the registration. Now comes the next circumstances where proper officer on suo motu basis, he will cancel the registration. So in the following cases, registration can be cancelled by the PO, including retrospective date. Even he can cancel with effect from retrospective date also, not just prospectively. Retrospective cancellation also they can do. PO on his own, he can initiate the action. When, sir? See, definitely whenever you have committed some non-compliances. After taking registration, if you have done some violations, if you have done some non-compliances, then only PO will proceed ahead to cancel your registration voluntarily. So when, sir? What are those circumstances? Number one, a registered person has contravened the prescribed provisions. There are certain provisions, not all provisions, certain provisions of the GST Act you have violated. Then PO will cancel registration. Sir, what are that prescribed contraventions which could lead the PO to proceed ahead and cancel my registration? So these are such prescribed contraventions which make a person liable for, which makes a person's registration liable to be cancelled. What are they? Number one, does not conduct any business from declared place of business. You have declared one place of business, but from that place of business you are not doing any business. Then if he is issuing invoice or bill without supplying goods or services, that means you are doing supplies without giving invoices, then also they can cancel your registration. Violates the provisions of section 171. There is something called anti-profiteering. Section 171 talks about anti-profiteering. Not there as a part of our CA inter syllabus. But if you have violated the provisions of section 171, then also they will cancel your registration. There is one more thing, violating the provisions of Rule 10A. See, Rule 10A, we have missed it out in revision. So what is Rule 10A is furnishing of the bank account details. This I will take the opportunity to come back. This I think I have missed out. Rule 10A. Where is Rule 10A? Just 1 minute. Yeah, furnishing of bank account details. Sir, what is this Rule 10A, sir? Rule 10A says that at the time when you are submitting an application for registration, at that point of time, you need not furnish your bank account details. After you have got the registration certificate, then you can furnish the bank account details. After you get the registration certificate, then you can furnish bank account details, but there is one prescribed time limit. What is the time limit, sir? Either within 30 days of registration or before filing your GSTR1 or IFF, whichever is earlier. So if I have to put it in other way around, you will get 30 days of time after you get the registration certificate to furnish the bank account details. In case if you are not furnishing your bank account details after getting the registration certificate, that too within 30 days from the date of grant of registration certificate, then also the PO can proceed ahead and cancel your registration. So that is what Rule 10A is. So that's what they say here. One more condition where your registration can be cancelled by the suo motu by the proper officer. So if you are violating Rule 10A, not furnishing your bank account details, or if you are availing ITC, violating sections of section number 16. So going forward, we are going to take up ITC chapter. In that ITC chapter, we will see that in case if you want to claim the input tax credit, you are required to comply with some conditions. You are not complying with some conditions. Without violating the conditions of section number 16, you have taken the ITC. That means you are claiming wrong ITC. Then also PO can cancel your registration. Or furnishes details of outward supplies in GSTR1 in excess of outward supplies declared by him in your GSTR 3B. That means in your GSTR1, I will give you one example. In your GSTR1 or 1A, let us say you are declaring your outward supplies as 50 lakh rupees. But in your GSTR 3B, when actually you have to make the payment, there you are declaring your outward supply as only 30 lakh rupees. So this is also a case where you are declaring more outward supplies in your GSTR1 and you are declaring less outward supplies in your GSTR 3B. Then also PO can cancel your registration. Next, if you are violating the provisions of Rule 86B, what is this Rule 86B? This also we'll try to get to know about it in the ITC chapter. Then, if you are violating the provisions of third or fourth provision to Rule 23, if you are violating the provisions of Rule 23, then also your registration will be liable for cancellation. Or if he is not furnishing the returns. These 2 points are regarding non-furnishing of the returns. So, non-furnishing returns, when if you don't furnish the returns, your registration will be cancelled. That I will tell you one quick summary. Let us say you are a registered person and you are under regular scheme. And if you are under regular scheme, you could be either a quarterly return filer or if you are a monthly return filer. You could be a quarterly return filer or if you are monthly return filer. If you are a monthly return filer, if you did not file your returns for 6 continuous months, if you are not filing your return for 6 continuous months, then what will happen? Your registration will be liable to be cancelled. In case if you are a quarterly return filer, if you are not filing the returns for 2 continuous quarters, if you are not filing your returns for 2 continuous quarters, then you will be liable. Then your registration will be liable for cancellation. On the other hand, if you are opting for composition scheme, if you are a composition scheme dealer, if you are not filing your annual return in GSTR 4, if you are not filing your annual return beyond 3 months from the due date, then your registration will be liable to be cancelled. That's all. 3 return cases. If you are a regular registered person, if you are a monthly return filer, if you did not file returns for 6 continuous months. If you are a quarterly return filer, if you did not file your quarterly returns for 2 continuous quarters. If you are a composition dealer, if you have not filed your annual return GSTR4 beyond 3 months from the due date. 30th of June is the due date. Beyond 3 months from the due date also, if you are not filing your annual return, your registration will be liable for cancellation. Understood? Clear? So that's what they try to say it here. So you are not filing your returns. That's what even I have tried to explain it. Whatever is there here, that itself I have tried to explain. So that is if you are doing prescribed contravention and a registered person has not filed returns for specified period. This also anyhow I have covered it. If you are a composition taxpayer, if you have not furnished your return for a financial year beyond 3 months from the due date. This also I have just now covered. And if you are voluntarily registered person, but you are not commencing the business within 6 months from the date of registration, even though you are not liable for registration, you came forward voluntarily. You told that, sir, voluntarily I want to get the registration. But after getting registration, 6 months is over, but still you are not commencing the business. Then also PO can cancel your registration on suo motu basis. Or after you got the registration certificate, if it was found that whatever registration that you have obtained, that was by means of fraud, by means of willful misstatement, or by suppressing the facts. If after you have submitted the registration, after you got the registration certificate, if the PO finds that you have obtained that registration by way of fraud, willful misstatement, or suppression of the facts, then also he can proceed for cancellation of registration. Understood? Right. Now suspension is there. Suspension part is not that important. I will. So this procedure for cancellation and all, this you can refer to it. So what will happen in case of voluntary cancellation? Just you have to submit an application within 30 days that you are cancelling your registration, and you have to furnish the details of your inputs which are in stock and what is the liability thereon. And even you have to pay, if any payment is there, you are required to make the payment and all. Then after you have submitted the application, if it was found that you are no longer liable for registration, PO will issue the cancellation order within 30 days. On the other hand, if the PO on his own, if the department itself initiates the action for cancellation, first what they will do is, first they will issue show cause notice. Just like that, they will not cancel your registration. First they will give you show cause notice and they will give you opportunity of being heard, and you have to reply within 7 days. If reply is satisfactory, then PO will drop the cancellation proceedings. If Instead of giving a reply, one more thing you can do if you're not filing the returns. That's why PO has given you show cause notice for cancellation. Instead of giving a reply, you can do one thing: file all your pending returns. Within that 7 days, file all your pending returns, pay all your taxes, pay all your interest. Then PO will drop your cancellation proceedings. And if the cancellation is warranted, PO will issue the cancellation order also. Sir, what will be the effective date of cancellation? Effective date of cancellation will be mentioned in your cancellation order. Effective date of cancellation will be mentioned in your cancellation order. So that could be even retrospective date also. That will be mentioned in the cancellation order. Now, amount payable on cancellation and all, not important. So this we will keep it aside. Then we'll come to the next point. Other points about cancellation. One important point I will try to tell it here. See, cancellation procedure and all will become applicable only for GSTIN. If you are a person, like you are an United Nations organization, or if you are a foreign embassy, foreign consulate, if you have obtained UIN, for UIN there is no procedure for cancellation. UIN, there is no procedure for cancellation. These cancellation proceedings, whatever I have told you here, they will become applicable only for GSTN. For UIN, there is no cancellation procedure at all. Then one more last point from this chapter, section number 30. See, if your registration is cancelled, you can get revocation of cancellation of registration. If PO on his own motion, let us say for example, if you yourself voluntarily went and cancelled your registration, there is no option of getting it back. If you are a business person, if you voluntarily cancelled your registration, then there is no option of getting it back. But in case if the PO has cancelled the registration, if the department has cancelled the registration on suo moto basis, then they will give you one more option. We will give you one more option. You make an application for revocation of cancellation. Then they will consider it. So once again, you have to remember, if you voluntarily went ahead and cancelled the registration, there is no option of getting it back. But in case if the PO has cancelled the registration on suo moto basis, then they will give you one option, one more last option they will give you to get your registration back. That we call it as revocation of cancellation of registration. So that's what they say. Here time limits are very important here. So if you see this procedure, this much we will have to understand it. If registration was cancelled suo moto by the proper officer, then that person may apply for revocation of cancellation in the prescribed form. Within how many days? Within 90 days from the date of service of the cancellation order. You will get the cancellation order, no? From that date of cancellation order, not from effective date of cancellation. You will get the cancellation order, no? From the cancellation order. Say sometimes the cancellation order, you will get it. Let us say, for example, you are getting the cancellation order as on today. But in the cancellation order, it was mentioned that your registration has been cancelled with effect from 31st of December also. Yes, they can say it. Even they can do retrospective cancellation. So within 90 days, you can submit an application for revocation of cancellation. No. So what is that 90 days? From where you have to calculate that 90 days? From the date of order of service of cancellation order. Sorry, from the date of service of cancellation order. So from whichever date they have given the cancellation order, from that date within 90 days, you can submit an application for revocation of cancellation. However, this 90 days period of submission of application can be extended. So you have 90 days for the submission of application of revocation of cancellation, but that 90 days period can be extended. Who can extend it? By a commissioner of an author, by a commissioner or an officer authorized by him, not below the rank of additional or joint commissioner. Sir, how much time they can extend it for it? So they can extend it for a duration of not exceeding 180 days. So initial 90 days plus 180 days extension they can do. So maximum 270 days you will have to get your registration back. 90 days usual time limit. If you have any valid and genuine reason, you can submit an application. Then commissioner or officer not below the rank of AC or JC, they can extend that time limit by 180 days. Next. So if you submit the application, if the PO is satisfied, then he can revoke the cancellation by an order within 30 days of receipt of the application. Otherwise, if he feels that no, you are not justified, it should not be given to you, revocation of cancellation should not be done to you, then he will not revoke your cancellation. Okay, so it is completely up to the PO's choice. Clear? Next, there is some information regarding pending returns and all. This you can keep. This you can keep it on hold. This you can keep it aside. So this is what regarding mainly on revocation. Mainly they ask this question from the time limit only. Within what time limit you have to submit an application for revocation of cancellation. So that time limit is only very important. 90 days. Initially 90 days. Thereafter 130 days. Thereafter 180 days can be extended. Understood? Right. So with this, I want to put an end to the registration chapter. So with this, I want to put an end to the registration chapter. The next chapter which will take up for revision will be composition levy. We'll try to take up the chapter composition levy. So composition levy, very small chapter. Quickly, we will try to revise it. So since we have successfully completed revising the chapter registration, under GST. Now we will talk about the composition levy. Very small chapter, very important from the examination perspective. Very simple chapter only. We'll try to cover it in a quick go. So first of all, what exactly is this composition levy? See, composition levy is an optional scheme which is given for the small registered persons. See, they have already given threshold limit. If your aggregate turnover exceeds the applicable threshold limit, then only you become liable for registration. Once you become registered, it's not going to be an easy task. There are n number of compliances which you have to take care of. There are so many compliances which you have to take care of it. Like month on month, you have to file the returns, you have to maintain accounts, you have to maintain records, you have to make the payment of the GSTs, so you have to issue the invoices. So like that, multiple compliances will be there. So now what GST department has taught us, the moment you are registered, there are n number of compliances which you have to take care of. But all these compliances are adding up to the cost of that registered person. So that's why what they have told is, they have told, okay boss, you are registered, but if you are a small registered person, sir, how they will decide the small registered person? They will decide it on the basis of turnover. As I've always said, whenever they want to link it with whenever they want to give relaxation, whenever they want to check the eligibility criteria and other kind of criterias, they will always try to link it with the aggregate turnover. So they have given one turnover. If you are already a registered person, but if your turnover is within that prescribed limit, then we will treat you as a small registered person, and we will give you one optional scheme called composition levy. If you opt for composition levy, what will happen is you will get some relaxation. Number one, you need not file month on month returns. You need not file quarterly returns. Only one return for the entire financial year. One annual return you will be required to file, GSTR 4. And you are required to make only quarterly payment. You are not required to maintain full records. You will be given exemption from maintaining some records. And you are not required to issue invoices every time. You have to issue one other document called bill of supply. So like that, they have given some benefits for small taxpayers. So for small registered person, that scheme we call it as composition scheme. And there are two kinds of composition schemes actually. One is composition scheme for those people who are engaged in goods and also restaurant service providers. And we have one more composition scheme, which is composition scheme for services. There are two composition schemes actually. One is composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2. The other name for that is, we also call it as composition scheme for goods. There is another composition scheme which is 10 subsection 2A. This is something which is composition scheme for services. I will come back to this 10 to A later. First, we will try to complete all the relevant discussion for composition scheme for goods. 10 subsection 1 and 2 will try to finish it off. Thereafter, we'll come back to 10 subsection 2A. First, we'll try to revise 10 subsection 1 and 2. Normal composition scheme for goods. Now, before I go into that composition scheme discussion, I wanted to tell you a few certain things in case of composition dealer. Number one, if you are a composition dealer, if you have opted for composition scheme, you will be permitted to pay the GST at a discounted rate. You will be permitted to pay the GST at a discounted rate, like 1%, 5%, 6%, like you will be given the permission to pay the GST at a discounted rate. And that GST which you are required to pay under composition scheme, that you can't collect. It from your customers. You cannot collect that GST amount, whatever discounted rate of GST that you are required to pay. That amount of GST, you can't collect it from your customer, that you have to pay it from your own pocket. So first point, you can't collect that GST amount from your customers, you have to pay it from your own pocket. Point number two, for the purpose of discharging that GST, you can't use input tax credit. You can't use ITC for that. Whatever GST that you have to pay under composition scheme, that discounted rate of GST, whatever you are required to pay under composition scheme, that you can't use for discharging that tax liability under composition scheme. You can't use the input tax credit. That means you have to make that payment compulsorily in cash. So you can't use input tax credit. Similarly, you can't pass on input tax credit. Whatever discounted rate of GST that you are paying, that you can't pass it on as an input tax rate for your customer also. So which means that if I am a person, if I am a customer, I went to one dealer, I went to one supplier who has opted for composition scheme. Just give me 1 minute. Yeah. So if I went to one supplier who has opted for composition scheme, from that person, if I am purchasing some goods or if I am receiving some services, that person can't pass on credit to me. That means whatever GST that a supplier is paying under composition scheme, that he can't give it as credit to his customers, that his customers can't take the ITC for that. Clear? So these 3 points always you have to keep in mind. What are that? Number one, composition dealer will pay the GST at a discounted rate. That GST which he is paying at a discounted rate, he can't collect it from his customers. Number two, for discharging that GST liability under composition scheme, he can't take input tax credit. Number three, he can't pass on the input tax credit to his customers. These 3 points you have to keep in mind. So having said this discussion, now I will try to explain about the composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2. 10 subsection 1 and 2 will try to understand, which is also called as composition scheme for goods. Sir, who can opt for this composition scheme? Who will be eligible for this composition scheme? Only the following category of suppliers are eligible for composition scheme. Who are they, sir? If you are a manufacturer, if you are a manufacturer of goods, or if you are a trader, if you are not doing manufacturing, you are just trading the goods, or if you are a restaurant service provider. Who? If you are a restaurant service provider, only these 3 category of persons are eligible for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2. So tell me, who are eligible for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2? Either you are a manufacturer, or you are a person trading in goods, or if you are a restaurant service provider. Only these 3 people are eligible for composition scheme under 10 subsection 2. But not every manufacturer, every trader, every restaurant service provider. Only when these people, when they have a aggregate turnover less than or equal to certain limit, less than or equal to certain limit in the preceding financial year. If you are even a manufacturer, trader, or even a restaurant service provider, they will also become eligible to opt for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2 only if their aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year is up to certain limit. Then only they can opt for composition scheme. Sir, then what is that limit, sir? What is that limit is generally 1.5 CR. How much? 1.5 crores. If your aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year has not exceeded 1.5 CR or is it up to 1.5 crores, then in the current year, you become eligible for composition levy. So this is what the limit the government has given, 1.5 CR. But if you special category states came forward and told, no, we don't want 1.5 CR of limit, we will allow only up to 75 lakhs. We will allow only up to 75 lakhs. Only up to 75 lakh rupees we will, if the turnover in the preceding financial year is up to 75 lakhs, then only we will allow the persons to opt for composition levy. Not all special category states, only these special category states, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8 special category states have told it. I have developed a mnemonic for that, which is Matson. Matson, or these are the alphabets actually, whatever code you want to, whatever mnemonic you want to develop, you can do permutations and combinations and work out some mnemonic which you will be able to remember it. So I have kept it as Matson. So what and all are that special category states who told I want only 75 lakh rupees of limit for composition scheme? So Matson, which is Meghalaya, Manipur, Mizoram, then Arunachal Pradesh, then we have Tripura, then we have Sikkim and Uttarakhand and Nagaland. So these 8 special category states came forward and told, no, in our states, if the person is registered, if the aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year is up to 75 lakh rupees, then only we will make them eligible for composition scheme. Okay, so if I have to put it, only manufacturer, trader, restaurant service provider, they will be eligible for opting for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2, provided their aggregate turnover is either less than or equal to 1.5 CR or 75 lakhs in case of that 8 special category states. And they can remain under composition scheme in the current financial year only up to the time their turnover is within that limit of 1.5 CR or 75 lakh. For checking applicability, for determining eligibility, we check the aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year. If their aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year is up to 1.5 CR or 75 lakh rupees, they can remain under composition scheme. They become eligible for composition scheme in the current year. But in the current year, they will remain under composition scheme only till the time their turnover is up to 1.5 CR or 75 lakhs. Let us say, for example, for this year, for the year 24-25, I am eligible for composition scheme. So till December, my turnover is 1.5 CR. So till December, I can remain under composition scheme. But from 1st January onwards, my turnover has exceeded 1.5 CR. Now from 1st January onwards, I have to withdraw from the composition scheme. I have to come to the regular scheme. Able to understand? Right. So up to 1.5 CR or 75 lakhs. So if you are in the 8 special category states, yes, that up to 75 lakhs in the current financial year, you can remain under composition scheme. If you are from other states, up to 1.5 CR in the current financial year, you can remain under composition scheme. Understood? Able to understand? Right. So let us have a quick look at it. So this is what regarding applicability criteria. So read this point. Option to avail composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 shall lapse with effect from the date on which aggregate turnover in a financial year during a financial year exceeds the threshold limit of either 1.5 CR or 75 lakh rupees. Next. Now, okay sir, if I have opted for composition scheme, what is the rate of GST which I will be liable to pay? if I'm opting for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2, what will be the rate of GST I will be required to pay? So what will be the rate of GST I will be required to pay is if I'm a manufacturer. If I'm a manufacturer, I will be liable to pay 0.5% of the turnover in a state or union territory. This is under CGST Act. Equal amount of SGST also will come. So effectively 1%. If I'm a manufacturer, I'm liable to pay 0.5% of turnover in a state or union territory. In every state and union territory, how much is the turnover I am making? In that turnover in a state or union territory, I will be required to pay 0.5%. Equal amount of SGST, 1% effectively I have to pay. If you are a restaurant service provider, then you will be required to pay 2.5% of turnover in a state or union territory, equal amount of GST. SGST also effectively rate is 5%. On the other hand, if you are any other supplier eligible for composition levy, other than manufacturer, other than restaurant service provider, who is left out? Traders are left out. So if you are a trader opting for composition levy, the rate of GST will be 0.5% of turnover of taxable supplies of goods and services in state or union territory. Equal rate of SGST, effective rate will be 1%. So now what exactly they are trying to say here is, if you are a manufacturer or restaurant service provider, if you are a manufacturer, you will pay 1% of the turnover in a state or union territory. If you are a restaurant service provider, you will pay 5%. And this 1% and 5%, you have to pay it on total turnover in a state or union territory. Total turnover in a state or union territory. So if I give you one example, let us say there is a person who is having a place of business in Andhra Pradesh, is also having a place of business in Tamil Nadu. So in Andhra Pradesh, he made taxable supplies amounting to 10 lakhs. In one quarter, he made taxable supplies amounting to 10 lakhs, exempt supply amounting to 2 lakhs. And in Tamil Nadu, he made taxable supplies amounting to 5 lakh rupees, and exempt supply he made 1 lakh. He's a manufacturer. How much he is required to pay? 1% of total turnover. So what is total turnover of AP? 10 plus 2, 12 lakh. 5 plus 1, 6 lakhs. So on total, this 18 lakhs, on this 12 lakhs also he will pay 1%. On this 6 lakhs also he will pay 1%. On total turnover, if you are a manufacturer, you will be required to pay that 1%. Or if you are a restaurant service provider, you are required to pay 5% on your total turnover, including your exempt supplies. But on the other hand, if you are a trader, if I take the above example, but in case if the person is not a manufacturer, if he is trader, then what is the scenario is the trader will be required to pay 1% only on taxable turnover. So that means on this 10 lakh rupees, 1%, which will come to 10,000. On this 5 lakh rupees, 1%, which will come to 5,000. Total 15,000 only he will be required to pay. On the other hand, if he is a manufacturer, he will be required to pay on total turnover, including the exempt supplies also he will be required to pay. Very, very important. This is what one of the most common point in the composition levy, which many students often commit a mistake. So what will be the rate of GST that will be applicable in case of person opting for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2? If you are a manufacturer, 1% of your turnover, total turnover in a state or union territory. If you are a restaurant service provider, 5% of your turnover in a state or union territory. Any other supplier, that means if you are a trader, 1% of taxable turnover in a state or union territory. That much amount you will be required to pay. Understood? And this amount you will be required to discharge only in cash. You can't use the input tax credit for that, and even your recipient can't take the input tax credit of this. Understood? Clear? Then we have to see a few more things here. Sir, who is not eligible for composition scheme? Who is not eligible for composition scheme for goods? That means even though you are a trader, even though you are a manufacturer, even though you are a restaurant service provider, if your aggregate turnover is within the limit of 1.5 crore or 75 lakhs also, still you might not become eligible for composition scheme. Sir, who are that people not eligible for composition scheme? Number one, if you are a supplier who is engaged in supply of goods or services not leviable to tax. That means if you are making a non-taxable supply. If you are making what? Non-taxable supply. So what is non-taxable supply? Alcoholic liquor for human consumption, 5 petroleum products. If you are making a non-taxable supply, you are ineligible for composition scheme. Then if you are a person making supply of interstate outward supplies, if you are making interstate outward supplies, then also you become ineligible for composition levy. Sir, the restriction is only on interstate outward supplies. What if I am purchasing from other states? If I have interstate inward supplies, will I become ineligible for composition levy? No, I will not become eligible for ineligible for composition levy. If I have interstate inward supplies, if I'm purchasing from other state, I can still enjoy composition scheme. But in case if I'm making an interstate outward supply, if I'm making supply to other states, outward supply to other states if I'm doing, then I can't remain under composition scheme. I become ineligible for composition scheme. Then If you are a person making supply of services through e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS under section number 52. If you are a supplier who is making supply of services through an e-commerce operator under section number 52 who is required to collect TCS under section number 52, you become ineligible for composition levy. See, if you see the restriction here, it is only on services. That means you can make supply of goods. You can make supply of goods through e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS under section number 52. You will not become ineligible for composition levy. You become ineligible for composition levy only when you are making interstate supply of services through an e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS under section number 52. And if you are a manufacturer of specified goods, if you are engaged in manufacture of certain goods, then also you become ineligible for composition levy. Sir, what are the goods which I should not manufacture? If you pay close attention, the restriction is only on manufacturing. That means you can do trading. Trading is permitted, manufacturing is prohibited. If you are engaged in manufacturing of this below notified products, then you become ineligible for composition levy. Sir, what are that products which I should not manufacture? Ice cream and other edible ice, whether or not containing cocoa. Pan masala, tobacco products, aerated waters, fly ash bricks and fly ash blocks, fly ash aggregates, bricks of fossil mills or similar siliceous earth, building bricks, earthen or roofing tiles. Is this list sounding familiar? Is this list sounding familiar? Yes. Just now in the registration chapter we have seen. So if you remember, if you are not making supply from MMNT, I am connecting the dots here. Listen carefully. For checking the threshold limit, I have gave you one chart. There I told that if you are not making taxable supply from MMNT, if you are not making taxable supply from UP Match, then if you are engaged in only supply of goods, you can enjoy the enhanced threshold limit of 40. Yes or no? But in case if you are engaged in making supplies, there the term which they use is if you are engaged in making supplies of 7 products. So they're making supplies means what? Either you are engaged in manufacturing or trading of 7 products. You can't enjoy the enhanced threshold limit. What are that 7 products? As you could see here, ice cream and other edible ice, pan masala, tobacco products, fly ash bricks, fly ash blocks, fly ash aggregate, bricks of fossil mills or similar siliceous earth, building bricks or earthen or roofing tiles. Then you can't enjoy the enhanced threshold limit of 40. But in composition levy, you become ineligible for composition levy only when you are manufacturing. That means you can trade. If you are doing trading, you still become eligible for composition levy. Restriction is there for only on manufacturing. If you are manufacturing, but for 40 lakh rupees of limit, they say making supplies. That means to enjoy that 40 lakh rupees of threshold limit, you should not be manufacturing, you should not be trading. But to become eligible for composition levy, if you are not doing manufacturing, it is enough. If you are doing trading, still you become eligible for composition levy. Sir, which goods I should not trade? Same 7 goods. Same 7 goods. To that, one more product will get added to the list. What is it? Aerated waters. Even aerated waters also you should not manufacture in order to be eligible for composition levy. The remaining 7 products are same. All the 7 products are same. So 7 products you should not deal. You should not supply. You should not either do the manufacturing or trading to be eligible for enhanced threshold limit of 40 lakh rupees. On the other hand, that 7 products along with aerated waters, you should not manufacture. You can trade, but you should not manufacture to be eligible for composition levy. Understood? Clear and comfortable, everybody? So we are actually talking who will not become eligible for composition levy under 10 subsection 1 and 2. Who? Number 1, if you are a person if you are making non-taxable supplies. Number 2, if you are making any interstate outward supplies of goods or services. Number 3, if you are making supply of services through e-commerce operator who is required to collect TCS under section number 52. Number 4, if you are engaged in manufacturing of specified goods. Number 5, if you are a CTP or NRTP. Even CTP or NRTP also will not be eligible for composition levy. Then, if you are a supplier of services other than those provided in 10 subsection 1. That means apart from restaurant services, if you are providing any other services, then you become ineligible for composition levy. So you should be either trader, manufacturer or restaurant service provider. If you are engaged in any other services, then you become ineligible for composition levy under 10 subsection 1 and 2. But this last point was creating trouble. What is the trouble, Let us say, for example, I'm a trader. I'm a person who is trading in electronic goods. I'm selling electronic goods. Mainly I'm selling goods only. Let us say my aggregate turnover is also within 1.5 CR, less than that only. But since I am into electronic goods, what I am doing is along with my supply of goods, I am also providing little bit of repairs. Along with the supply of electronic goods, I am also required to do some repairs. Depending on the nature of the business, I have to do. But repairs is very, very minimal. Let us say, for example, I am doing only 5 lakhs or 2 lakhs, 3 lakhs worth of repairs only. So I'm primarily engaged in supply of goods, but I'm doing very small amount of service. But if I do this service, I become ineligible for composition levy. if I provide any service, I will become ineligible for composition levy. No, because composition levy under 10 subsection 1 and 2 is only for manufacturer, trader, restaurant service provider. Apart from that, I should not provide any other services. So that's why I become here ineligible for composition levy if I do some repairs. Yes or no? But the government has given relaxation. These are all genuine cases. No, we will do one thing. We will allow you to take composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2, provided if you are doing a marginal supply. If you are doing what? Marginal supply of services, very minimal amount of services if you are doing, then we will still make you eligible to opt for composition scheme. Sir, but how to decide what is that marginal supply? How to decide marginal supply when you can say he is making only small amount of supply? Criteria should be given. No. So what is that permitted limit of providing the services is, this is what will be considered as marginal supply of services. 10% of the turnover in a state or union territory in the preceding financial year, or rupees 5 lakhs, whichever is higher. That much marginal supply you can do. So which means 10% of the turnover in a state or union territory, or rupees 5 lakhs, whichever is higher, that much amount of services you can provide in the current financial year, and you can still become eligible for composition levy. Let us say turnover in the preceding financial year is 80 lakh rupees. So 80 lakh rupees or 5, what is the amount they say here? 10% of the turnover in the preceding financial year. So 10% of the turnover in the preceding financial year, 10% of 80 lakhs, which is 8 lakhs, or 5 lakh rupees, whichever is higher. Which one is higher? 8 lakh rupees. So in the current year, you can provide the services up to 8 lakh rupees of value. Still you become eligible for composition levy. In case if your marginal supply of services exceeded 8 lakh rupees, then you have to withdraw from the composition scheme and you have to come under regular scheme. Understood? Clear and comfortable, everybody? Right. So this is what regarding marginal supply of services. So you are permitted to provide marginal supply of services and you can still remain under composition scheme. Till here, everybody comfortable? So we have seen composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2. Who is eligible? What will be the turnover limit? What rate of GST they are required to pay? When a person will become ineligible? And what kind of marginal supply of services he can provide? So this is what the initial scheme which the government is having for composition. But what happened is, over a period of time, since the service sector is also very much booming, but service sector other than restaurant service providers, other service sector is completely kept outside of the composition purview. So in 10 subsection 1 and 2, they are giving this option of composition levy only for primarily goods and restaurant service providers. If at all you want to do a service, even only you can do marginal supply of services. That means entire service sector has been kept outside of the purview, right? So these people also went and requested to the government, sir, why are you so harsh on us? Why are you not giving some simplified scheme for us? We are also doing business. We are also genuine taxpayers only. But you have given a scheme called composition scheme only for goods and restaurant service providers. What mistake we have done? Please give us also an composition scheme. So department gave a thought and brought one more scheme. They have introduced a new section 10 subsection 2A. So it says that if you are some person who are ineligible for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2, might be you are only service provider, or you are making supply of goods as well as services where your service component is more than marginal supply. So because of some reason, if you are ineligible for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2, no need to worry, we will give you one more scheme. You can come and claim the composition scheme under 10 subsection 2A. You can come and claim the composition scheme under 10 subsection 2A. This I call it as composition scheme for services. This I call it as what? Composition scheme for services. So if you are a person who is ineligible for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2, no need to worry. We have one more option for you. You can opt for composition scheme under 10 subsection 2A. Sir, which persons will become eligible for composition scheme under 10 subsection 2A? They say that if you are such a person whose aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year is less than or equal to 50 CR. If you are such a person whose aggregate turnover is less than or equal to 50 crores in the preceding financial year, then in the current year, you can opt for composition scheme under 10 subsection 2A up to a turnover of 50 crore rupees. Up to a turnover of 50 crore rupees in the current financial year, you can opt for composition scheme under 10 subsection 2A. This is mainly for service providers. So if you are a service provider, you are ineligible for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2. Don't worry, you have one more option. If your aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year is less than 50 lakh rupees. What 50 crores I told? Sorry. Not 50 crore rupees, it's 50 lakh rupees. So sorry, it's 50 lakh rupees only. So if your aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year is less than or equal to 50 lakh rupees, then in the current year, you can remain under composition scheme up to a turnover of 50 lakh rupees under 10 subsection 2A. The limit for composition scheme under 10 subsection 2A is only 50 lakh rupees. So where it is mentioned, here it is mentioned. So if you see turnover limit in case of composition levy for services under 10 subsection 2A, 50 lakh rupees in the preceding financial year. And in the current year, you can remain under composition scheme up to a turnover of 50 lakh rupees. Sir, you told rate of GST. So rate of GST is, you told for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2, 1%, 5% you told. But what will be the rate of GST which I'm required to pay if I'm opting for composition scheme under 10 subsection 2A? Here they told 6%. For 10 subsection 2A, the rate of GST which you will be required to pay is 6%. Why? Because service sector, no, in service sector profit margins will be little higher than when compared with the goods. So that's why what they have told is, in case if you want to opt for composition scheme under 10 subsection 2A, you have to pay 6% on your turnover in a state or union territory. 3% CGST, 3% SGST. You have to pay effectively 6%. And here this 6% also you have to pay it on total turnover, not just on taxable turnover. This 6% you are required to pay it on total turnover in a state or union territory. And even here also the same category of people who are ineligible, who will become ineligible even for 10 subsection 2A. So who will become ineligible if you are engaged in making non-taxable supply, if you are making interstate outward supplies, if you are supplying services through e-commerce operated under section number 52, if you are a notified, if you are engaged in that manufacturing of that notified goods, if you are a CTP or NRTP, you become ineligible for composition scheme under 10 subsection 2A also. And whether you are a person opting for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2, or you are a person opting for composition scheme under 10 subsection 2A, there are some conditions and restrictions which are applicable for you. If you are a person opting for composition scheme either under section 10 subsection 1 and 2, or you are opting for composition scheme under 10 subsection 2A, there are some conditions or there are some restrictions which you are required to fulfill. Sir, what are they? Let us see. So you shall pay the tax under 9 subsection 3 or 4 on your inward supplies. You are a supplier, you have opted for composition scheme. But in case if you are receiving any services on which you are required to pay tax under RCM, you have to discharge that RCM liability. At what rate, sir? At whatever rate which is applicable for that supply, not discounted rate of 1%, 5%, 6%. So let us say I'm a person opting for composition scheme under 10 subsection 1 and 2. I will be making outward supplies. On my outward supplies, I will pay GST at the rate of 1% or 5%. Let us say I am receiving an inward supply. Legal services I am receiving, which is getting covered under RCM. So now on this supply, on this inwards, I am liable to pay the GST under RCM. So let us say 1 lakh worth of services I have received, legal services. That 1 lakh rupees I have to discharge the GST under RCM. At what rate, sir? At whatever rate that is applicable for legal services. Let us say applicable rate for legal services is 18%. So 1 lakh into 18%, 18,000 I will be required to pay. I cannot say, sir, I am opting for composition scheme. Even RCM liability also I will pay it at discounted rate. No, not possible. If you are required to pay GST under RCM, you have to pay it at the usual rate only, not the discounted rate. So that is first condition. You have to discharge your tax liability under reverse charge mechanism. And you should not be a CTP or NRTP. This point we have already covered. And you should compulsorily mention the words composition taxable person who is not eligible to collect a tax on supplies at the top of the bill issued by you. So if you are a composition dealer, first thing, you will not give tax invoice. You will give a document called bill of supply. Composition dealer will not issue a document called tax invoice. Composition dealer, whenever he is making any outward supplies, he will give a document called bill of supply. On that bill of supply, at the top, you have to mention that you are a composition taxable person. You are not eligible to collect tax on supplies. Like that, one sentence you have to compulsorily mention. And you have to mention the words composition taxable person on every notice or signboard displayed at a prominent place of your principal place of business and additional place of business. At your principal place of business, at your additional place of business, at a very prominent place, you have to mention that you are a composition taxable person. And tax on goods held in stock liable to reverse charge under must have been paid. This is not relevant. You can ignore this. So in case if you are liable to pay GST under RCM under 9 subsection 4, that you have to discharge it. Next. Sir, now what is the procedure? Now, before that, one more point I would like to explain. See, they told you to exclude one kind of supply, one kind of value of supply from 3 places. They told you to exclude one kind of value of supply from aggregate turnover also, from calculating the turnover in state or union territory also, and even while calculating marginal supply of services also. In all these 3 cases, one value of the supply you have to exclude it at all 3 places, my dear students. And this is a common point which is applicable for both composition schemes. So in case if you have made any outward supply by way of giving money as either loan or by way of giving of advance or by way of giving or by way of making deposit for which you are getting interest, for which you are getting interest or for which you are getting discount. Consideration is in the form of interest or discount. This is supply of service, no? And once again, if you go back to the services definition, activities relating to use of money for which a separate consideration is charged, that will be considered as supply of service. So in case if you are making an outward supply of giving loan, advance, deposit for which you are receiving the consideration in the form of interest or discount, this is supply of service. But that value of the interest or discount, you should not include it while calculating aggregate turnover. You will calculate aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year, no, whether it is within 75 lakhs, 1.5 cr, 50 lakh rupees, and up to in the current financial year also up to an aggregate turnover of 1.5 cr, 75 lakhs, 50 lakh rupees, you will remain under composition scheme. So when you are calculating aggregate turnover, either for the preceding financial year or in the current financial year, that value you don't include it. Then when you are calculating turnover in a state or union territory, see, this is actually the turnover on which I will pay the GST, on which I will multiply that 1%, 5%, 6% I will multiply, no, turnover in a state or union territory. From there also you don't include it. In the turnover in a state or union territory also exclude that interest or discount component. Similarly, when you are calculating marginal supply of services, you will calculate marginal supply of services under 10 subsection 1 and 2, that you can make marginal supply of services up to 10% of aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year or 5 lakhs, whichever is higher. So while calculating that marginal supply also, don't include that interest or discount component. Okay, so interest or discount, if you are given any loan, advance or deposit for which you are receiving interest or discount, so that is also supply of service only. But that value of supply of service which is in the form of interest or discount, that you have to exclude it from three places. Exclude it while calculating aggregate turnover, exclude it while calculating turnover in a state or union territory, also exclude it while calculating the marginal supply of services. At all these three places, you have to exclude that interest or discount component. Very important. You have to keep this in mind while doing the calculation figure. Next, after all this, few more things which I have to keep it here. So intimation, sir, how you can opt for composition levy? Very simple. At the time, if I'm submitting the registration application now itself, if I'm a new registrant, in my registration application itself, I can mention, sir, I'm taking registration, but after taking registration, I want to remain under composition scheme. Then whatever registration application you are submitting, no, in that registration application itself, you can exercise your option to remain under composition scheme. On the other hand, if you are already registered person, you are under regular scheme, but if you want to convert to composition scheme, you have to submit an intimation. But if you are already registered person, you can switch to composition scheme only before the commencement of the financial year. Very important. If you want to switch to composition scheme, if you are already registered person and if you are under regular scheme, if you want to convert from regular scheme to composition scheme, you can switch to composition scheme only before the commencement of the financial year. Before the commencement of the financial year only, you can switch to the composition scheme. But if you want to come from composition scheme to regular scheme, this you can do it anytime. From the composition scheme, you can get yourself converted to regular scheme at any time. But if you want to convert from regular scheme to composition scheme, that you have to do it before the commencement of the financial year. You have to intimate. Okay, so that is what key discussion from here. Yeah. And one more important point which I have to bring it here. This point. All registered persons having same PAN have to opt for composition scheme. If one such registered person opts for normal scheme, others also will become ineligible for composition scheme. Let us say under same PAN you have multiple registrations. You are having places of business in multiple states. Sir, can there be any option for a few registrations I will remain under composition scheme? For a few registration I will remain under regular scheme. Is there any such option like that? No. If you want to remain under composition scheme, all the registrations under the same PAN must be under composition scheme. If you want to go out of the composition scheme, all the registrations under same PAN must opt out of the composition scheme. There will not be such option where few registrations will remain under composition scheme, few registrations will remain under normal scheme. There is no option like that. Either all registrations must be under composition scheme or all registrations must be under regular scheme. So there is no if you under this, if you under that option is not possible. Clear? Able to understand? So these are all the important discussion from composition scheme. So mainly the question is going to come from that calculation of the GST part and all, and checking of the eligible criteria, whether you are eligible for composition scheme or not. That is where mainly the questions are going to come from. So this is the important content from the composition scheme. Very small chapter, and we have covered the revision of it. Right. So now, since we are done with composition scheme also, the next chapter which we will be picking up for revision is going to be, we'll now try to do charge of GST. We will try to do charge of GST. Okay. So mainly here we are going to talk about reverse charge mechanism. Mainly we are going to talk about the list of services which are covered under reverse charge mechanism. So that charge of GST chapter we will try to do it now. Okay. Right. So one of the students is asking in the comments section, sir, from today onwards, GST compensation cess will be closed. That is 31st of March 2026. What would be the impact in the state? So this point I have already covered yesterday. If you haven't watched the marathon of the yesterday we had a live session. The same point I have told. See, this is the last day. Even though this is the last day, it has been ruled out already by 22nd of September itself. They have made all the changes. They have stopped imposing this compensation cess. They have increased the rates of GST to 40% and all. In the previous session only, just in the yesterday's session only, I have clarified on this point. Just refer to the previous video. You will get to know what will happen if compensation cess is not going to be there from today. They have already taken care of it. Right. Okay, so now we will try to talk about charge of GST. See, in the charge of GST, the main concept which we are going to talk about here is there are a list of services which have been notified. So I will directly come to the point here. In the charge of GST, we are going to talk about a list of services which have been notified by way of a notification, which are getting covered under reverse charge mechanism. Very important, in the exam, compulsorily there will be a question regarding this. Either it could be a comprehensive question. Question number 1 will be a comprehensive question, right? Where they will connect all the chapters and ask a question. No, definitely in that question number 1 descriptive question, you will find at least 1 or 2 points which are related to RCM provisions, where you will be required to decide as a part of your first question whether the service is getting covered under RCM or FCM. That one testing will happen compulsorily in the first question. Sometimes you will also find one standalone question regarding this reverse charge mechanism. So not all goods and services are getting covered under RCM. The government will, over a period of time, they will notify. So there are various goods also. This is just given for reference sake. No need to remember. There are various kinds of goods also which are notified under RCM. So if a supplier is supplying these notified goods to the recipient, supplier will not collect any amount of GST from the recipient. The recipient himself will directly deposit the amount of GST with the government. So there are list of goods which have been notified, and we are not going to talk about this goods at all. Goods discussion is not important. This has been given only for reference. But there are bunch of services. There are a good number of services which have been covered under reverse charge mechanism. There are a good number of services which have been covered under reverse charge mechanism. So let us try to understand all those services which are covered under reverse charge mechanism. So first category of service, we will talk about GTA, the services provided by a goods transport agency by way of transportation of goods to a specified recipient. They will get covered under reverse charge mechanism. So the services provided by a goods transport agency. Supplier is GTA. See, there are different categories of the services. One by one, we will pick up one each service and we will try to understand when RCM will become applicable, when RCM will not become applicable. We will try to understand. So first category which I am taking up for discussion is GTA service provider. GTA service provider. So when RCM will become applicable, first supplier should be GTA. And what services they are providing? Services provided by way of transportation of goods. What service is covered under RCM? Transportation of goods by road. If these services are getting provided by a GTA to recipient, not all recipient. If the recipient is a specified recipient, If the recipient is a specified recipient, then RCM will become applicable. Now you will get a question, sir, who is GTA? GTA means a person who is engaged in services of transportation of goods by way of road, and who will issue a document called consignment note. Who will issue a document called consignment note? He will be called as GTA. On the other hand, sir, you are telling RCM will become applicable only when the recipient is a specified recipient. Sir, who is that specified recipient, sir? Who is that specified recipient? Let us see. In order to become applicable, in order for RCM to become applicable, recipient must be specified recipient. Sir, who are that specified recipients? Number one, a factory registered or governed by the Factories Act. If the recipient is a factory, whether they are registered under GST Act or not doesn't matter. If they are a factory registered under Factories Act 1948, then they will become liable for RCM. If it is a society registered under Societies Registration Act 1860 or any other law for the time being in force, whether they are registered under GST or not doesn't matter. If they are a society registered under Societies Registration Act, then they will become specified recipient. RCM will become applicable. Cooperative society established under any law, RCM will become applicable. A person already registered under GST Act. If you are a registered person under GST Act, then RCM will become applicable. And body corporate. If you are a body corporate established under any law, then RCM will become applicable. If it is a partnership firm, whether or not registered, doesn't matter. Then also RCM will become applicable, including association of persons. See, when it comes to partnership firm, whether registered or not, even if it is an unregistered partnership firm also, RCM will become applicable. When I say partnership firm, for the purpose of GST, partnership firm includes LLP also. For the purpose of GST, partnership firm will include LLP also. Not just that, even a CTP, any CTP located in the taxable territory, they will also be liable for RCM. So what they are trying to say here, so if I put it in other way around, if you are already a registered person, if you are already a registered person under GST, then RCM will become applicable. Apart from that, if you are a factory, if you are a society, if you are a cooperative society, if you are a body corporate, if you are a partnership firm, if you are a CTP, so then also you become liable for registry. Then also you become liable for RCM. So if you are a registered person or if you are a CTP, anyhow they will become liable for compulsory registration. So CTP and registered person, anyhow they will be registered under GST Act. But these category of person, that is factory, society, cooperative society, body corporate, partnership firm, even though they are not registered under GST Act, but now since they are liable to pay the GST under RCM, now they will fall under compulsory registration under section number 24. Now they have to take the compulsory registration. Now they have to take compulsory registration. If you are already a registered person, fine. But you are not already a registered person. But now since you are receiving the services on which you are liable to pay the GST under RCM, you will fall under compulsory registration under section number 24. Now you have to get yourself compulsorily registered. Able to understand? So if you are a GTA and if you are providing services by way of transportation of goods by road, and if the recipient falls under any of this specified recipient, then RCM will become applicable. These recipients are required to discharge the GST under RCM. However, there are some points which we need to keep in mind. What is that? RCM shall not become applicable if the service is provided by GTA to the following recipients. So this RCM will not become applicable when the recipient is even a specified recipient. Let us say, for example, if the recipient is already a registered person, the recipient is a registered person, then they have to pay the GST under RCM or not. But let us say if the recipient is a registered person, but the recipient is such a registered person who is in department or establishment of central government, state government or union territory or local authority or government agency who have taken registration only for the purpose of deducting of TDS under section number 51 and not for making any taxable supply. Not for making any taxable supply, then even though they are registered person, still RCM will not become applicable. So if I have to put it in other way around, just give me 1 minute. I have one chart. With the help of that chart, I will try to summarize everything. Just give me 1 minute. I will try to cover the exemptions also. I will try to cover exemptions as well. Just 1 minute. CA final IDT. CA final IDT. This one. Just 1 minute. Just a minute. Where is that? Yeah, I have. So just let me take the chart. With the help of the chart, I will be able to summarize it in a better way. I will try to cover the amendments also. There are some amendments covering this area. I will try to cover that amendments as well. Okay, perfect. Got it. Hmm. Copy page. Where is it? Okay, I am not getting it. How to import it? Just we'll do one thing. I'll try to explain it from here. Okay, right. So if you see, if you try to link it with GTA services here, I'm trying to talk about GTA services. Services provided by GTA. Services provided by GTA. So actually what will happen is, if the recipient is a specified recipient, just now I have told who and all are the specified recipient. If the recipient is a specified recipient, it will become taxable under reverse charge mechanism. But just now, as I've told, even though the recipient is a registered person, but if the recipient is a department or establishment of central government, state government, or union territory, or local authority, or government agency, who have taken registration only for the purpose of deducting TDS under section number 51. Just now, as I have told here, RCM will not become applicable. Just now, as I have told here, RCM will not become applicable. Not just RCM will not become applicable, guys, even FCM also will not become applicable because this is exempt. This is what? Exempted. That has been exempted. Okay, so supplier is a GTA, and if the recipient is specified recipient, then it will be taxable under reverse charge mechanism. So supplier is GTA if the recipient is a registered person, but if the recipient is such a registered person who is a department or establishment of central government or state government or local authority, government agency who has taken registration only for the purpose of deducting TDS under section number 51, but they are not making any taxable supply, then RCM will not become applicable. Not just RCM, even FCM also will not become applicable because this service is exempt. Because this service is exempt. On the other hand, sir, what if the recipient is somebody else? If the recipient is not a specified recipient, who will be that other than specified recipient? See, here they have covered maximum. If the recipient is a registered person, factory, society, cooperative society, body corporate, partnership firm, CTP, if these recipients are specified recipients, then RCM. Who could be other recipient? Who could be other recipient? The other recipient is individual unregistered person. Who will be left out? If the recipient is an individual unregistered person, then for them GTA services are exempted. No one will be liable to pay the amount of GST. For them, GTA services will be exempted. No one will be liable to pay the amount of GST. Able to understand? Till here, everybody comfortable? So GTA provisions, I'm trying to cover it here. So when GTA, RCM will become applicable. Supplier is GTA. Services by way of transportation of goods by road. Recipient is a specified recipient. Who is specified recipient? Already registered person or a CTP or a factory, cooperative society, body corporate, and partnership firm including association of persons. So if these recipient is a specified recipient, then they will get covered under RCM. One exception is there if the recipient is a department or establishment of central government, state government, union territory, local authority who has taken registration only for the purpose of deduction of TDS under section number 51, but for not making any taxable supply, exempt. No RCM, no FCM. Sir, what if the recipient is other than specified recipient? Then also no RCM, FCM because it is exempted. Okay, this discussion will you be able to remember? Yes, you have to remember it. Thereafter, one more option also they have given. See, actually, if the recipient is a specified recipient and the supplier is GTA, RCM will become applicable. But to the supplier GTA, the government has given one option. To the supplier GTA, the government has given one option. What option they have given? If you want, you can exercise the option to pay the tax under forward charge mechanism also. If you want, even GTA service provider, they can exercise the option. They can take the registration and they can exercise the option saying that I am GTA, my recipient is a specified recipient. Actually, my specified recipient is liable to pay the GST under RCM, but I want to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism. I will take registration and I will pay the GST under forward charge mechanism. If the GTA exercises such option, then that will be taxable under forward charge mechanism. Actually, RCM. But for this GTA service providers, they have given one option. What is that one option? Boss, if you come forward voluntarily and if you say that I will take registration and I will pay the GST under forward charge mechanism, then we are very happy with you. Then we will make the forward charge mechanism applicable, not the reverse charge mechanism. So that's what they say here. Nothing contained in this entry shall apply when the supplier, who is supplier? GTA. When the supplier is registered and he has exercised the option to pay the GST on GTA services under forward charge mechanism. However, he must issue a tax invoice, and on that tax invoice, he must make a declaration. On the tax invoice, he must make a declaration. What declaration he has to make on the tax invoice? So I am a GTA service provider. I have taken the registration and I have exercised the option to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism. That declaration he has to mention on the tax invoice. Then RCM will not become applicable. That GTA service provider only will pay the GST under forward charge mechanism. Now here comes one small amendment part. What is that amendment is? See, in case of GTA services, listen carefully. In case of GTA services, anyhow, for amendments, I have uploaded a separate video. This is anyhow relevant to that. This amendment is relevant to this discussion. That's why I'm explaining it here. See, in case of GTA services, just now, as I have told, either there can be forward charge mechanism. If the supplier himself is opting for forward charge mechanism, he will pay it. Or if the supplier is not opting for forward charge mechanism, recipient will pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. If the recipient is paying the GST under reverse charge mechanism, he is required to pay the GST at the rate of 5%, 2.5% CGST, 2.5% SGST. Under RCM, the recipient of GTA services, if he is liable to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism, the rate of GST which is required to be paid is 5%. How much? 5%. In case if the GTA service provider has opted to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism, in case if the GTA service provider has opted to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism, there are two options here. Either he can pay 5% under forward charge mechanism, but he will not be able to take ITC. ITC is restricted. If he wants to pay GST under forward charge mechanism, he can pay the GST at the rate of 5%, but ITC will be restricted. So without claiming ITC, he can pay 5% under forward charge mechanism. On the other hand, one more option has also been given. He can pay the GST at the rate of 18% with full ITC under forward charge mechanism. He can take GST and he can pay the GST at the rate of 18% by claiming full ITC. Here is the amendment. This is amendment. Previously, the rate used to be 12%, but now that has been replaced with 18%. Previously, the rate used to be 12%. Now that has been replaced with 18%. So like that, if you see it here in this chart and all, you'll be able to find 12%. But if you find the supplementary material, if you look at the supplementary material, this is what the amendment we have given here. So where GTA wishes to avail ITC on goods and services used in supplying GTA services, earlier the rate used to be 12%, but now this has been changed to 18%. Clear? So this chart you have to remember. So for GTA services, if the recipient is opting to pay the GST under, if the recipient is liable to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism, the rate of GST will be 5%. In case if the GTA service provider has opted to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism, two options are available for him. Either he can pay 5% without ITC, or he has to pay 18% if he wants to claim full ITC. Here is the amendment. Earlier it was 12%. Now it is 18%. Clear? Able to understand everybody? So one amendment, I have covered it here. Understood? Clear and comfortable? So this is what regarding GTA services RCM and also related exemptions. A few exemptions I have covered. Regarding transportation of goods, I was showing you some chart, no? I was showing you this chart, right? This chart is very comprehensive. Only one part of this chart I have covered. Only one part of this chart I have covered. There is so much of exemption which we are required to cover regarding transportation of goods that I will try to cover it in the exemption. Only relevant part I have covered it here. Whatever is relevant for us, that much only I have covered it. Understood? So this is what regarding GTA services. Now we will talk about other category of services which are exempted. Other category of services which are covered under RCM. So here there are some legal services which are getting covered under RCM. Services provided by an individual advocate, senior advocate or form of advocates, and legal services provided by arbitral tribunal. There also some RCM provisions are applicable. But along with RCM provisions, even exemptions are also there. Along with RCM provisions, even exemptions are also there. So now what I will try to do is legal services, everything I will try to cover it now. Along with exemptions, where RCM, where exempted, where FCM. FCM is not applicable here. So in case of legal services, at some places it is exempted, at some places it is taxable. Wherever it is taxable under RCM. So I have summarized it here. So services provided by advocates, senior advocate and also arbitral tribunal. When exempted, when RCM, that I have given this chart, this will try to cover it from here. So coming to this legal services part, let us see. In case if the legal services are provided by individual advocate who is other than senior advocate or form of advocates. See, senior advocate, we have a separate provision. Senior advocate, we have a separate provision. So that's why first chart I'm going to talk about where the service provider is individual advocate other than senior advocate or form of advocates. So services provided by individual advocate and form of advocates, when they are exempted, when they are taxable, when RCM. So they say that when the legal services are provided by either individual advocate or form of advocates to another advocate or form of advocates, exempted. to another advocate or form of advocate. Let us say I am an individual advocate. I am providing legal services to another advocate or another form of advocate. Then that services are exempted. No need to pay any GST on it. Services provided by individual advocate or form of advocates to central government, state government, union territory, local authority, government agency or government entity. Government authority or government entity, sorry. So then also they will be exempted if the recipient is government, exempted. Sir, services provided by individual advocate or form of advocates to a non-business entity, sir. Let us say I am an individual advocate or a form of advocate. We are getting this. Someone is asking, sir, where to get this chart book? This is not complete chart book. These are only few places where I have taken the help of the charts. This I will upload it in the resources section. Don't worry, this I will upload it in the resources section. Please concentrate now. So in case if the services are provided by individual advocate or firm of advocates to a non-business entity, let us say for example, one lawyer or one firm is fighting a divorce case. For that they are providing legal services. So that divorce case is a service provided to non-business entity, right? So for that non-business entity, if the services are provided, then also exempt. No, sir. Services are provided by individual advocate or form of advocates. Recipient is a business entity only, but the recipient is such a business entity whose aggregate turnover is up to applicable threshold limit in the preceding financial year. Small business entity, sir. So services provided by individual advocate or form of advocates. Recipient is a business entity, but that recipient is a small business entity whose aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year is up to the applicable threshold limit of 40, 20, 10, whatever it is. So if that business entity, if their aggregate turnover is less than applicable threshold limit in the preceding financial year, then also it is exempt. Sir, when it is taxable, only one more case is left out. What is it? If the recipient is a business entity whose aggregate turnover is more than applicable threshold limit in the preceding financial year, then it will become taxable and it will be taxable under reverse charge mechanism. This recipient business entity will be liable to discharge the GST under reverse charge mechanism. Able to understand? Clear? So when it comes to services provided by individual advocate or firm of advocates other than senior advocate, mostly exempt. At only one place it is taxable. There also wherever it is taxable under RCM. Sir, where and all it is exempted? If the services are provided to another advocate or form of advocates, exempt. If it is provided to government, exempt. If it is provided to non-business entity, exempt. If it is provided to a business entity whose aggregate turnover is up to applicable threshold limit in the preceding financial year, exempt. If it is provided to business entity whose aggregate turnover is more than applicable threshold limit in the preceding financial year, taxable. Now taxable under reverse charge mechanism. Understood? Now, sir, what about senior advocate? Mostly it will remain the same. Mostly the services provided by senior advocate is going to remain the same. So if the senior advocate is providing the services to government, exempt. If it is provided to non-business entity, exempt. If it is provided to business entity whose aggregate turnover is less than applicable threshold limit in the preceding financial year, exempt. If it is a business entity whose aggregate turnover is more than aggregate turnover in the preceding financial year, including another individual or form of advocates, then it will be taxable under reverse charge mechanism. Able to understand? So the difference between individual advocate and senior advocate is, in case of individual advocate or form of advocates, even if they are providing services to another advocates or form of advocates, it is exempt. But if a senior advocate is providing services to another individual advocate or form of advocates, then there is no such a specific exemption. And if their aggregate turnover has exceeded the applicable threshold limit in the preceding financial year, they will become taxable, that too under reverse charge mechanism. Able to understand, clear and comfortable. So mostly the same, individual advocate or form of advocates and senior advocate mostly the same, but only difference is coming here. If an individual advocate or form of advocate is providing services to another advocate or form of advocates, it will be generally exempt irrespective of what is the recipient's turnover. But here that relaxation is not there. Understood? Clear? Next, on the same lines, if the services are provided by arbitral tribunal, even services provided by arbitral tribunal also, at most of the places it is exempt, at a few places it will be taxable. Sir, when it will be exempted, sir? If arbitral tribunal is providing services to central government, state government, union territory, local authority, government entity, exempt. If the services of arbitral tribunal are provided to non-business entity, exempt. If it is provided to business entity, arbitral tribunal is providing the services, legal services to a business entity, but that business entity is a small business entity whose aggregate turnover is less than or equal to applicable threshold limit in the preceding financial year, exempt. But however, the recipient of arbitral tribunal services is a business entity whose aggregate turnover is more than applicable threshold limit in the preceding financial year, then it will become taxable and it will be taxable under RCM. Understood? Clear everyone? So this you have to remember it. So this is one chart where I have covered exemptions regarding legal services and arbitral tribunal, and also I have covered RCM related provisions of legal services and arbitral tribunal services. Clear? So two category of services we have covered under RCM. Number one, GTO services we have covered. Number two, legal services including legal services, including the arbitral tribunal services. Okay, now let us come to the next part. Sponsorship services. Even for sponsorship services also, RCM will become applicable. Even for sponsorship services also, RCM will become applicable. Sir, for sponsorship services, when RCM will become applicable? So for sponsorship services, when RCM will become applicable? Supplier should be other than, so if you see here, supplier should be other than body corporate. We'll try to cover it from here. Supplier should be other than body corporate. Recipient should be either a body corporate or partnership firm located in the taxable territory. RCM will become applicable. So this you have to remember it, my dear students. So in case of sponsorship services, when RCM will become applicable, supplier should be other than body corporate, recipient must be a body corporate or partnership firm. If these conditions are fulfilled, then RCM will become applicable. So that's what I say here. Sponsorship services, supplier should be other than body corporate, recipient must be a body corporate or partnership firm located in the taxable territory, then RCM will become applicable. Sponsorship services, important area. Many a times we find the questions from sponsorship services, so please be careful about it. Next, then we have government related services. This government related services, you keep it on hold now. Government related services, you keep it on hold now, because I have a comprehensive chart. For government services, I have a comprehensive chart. As you could see here, services provided by government. I have tried to summarize everything in this simple chart. This exemptions I will try to explain. This chart I will try to explain in the exemptions chapter. Currently, please do keep it on hold. So services provided by government, currently keep it on hold. Why? Because here when RCM, when exempted, when taxable, all that I have summarized it in one simple chart. This exemptions will try to cover it in the exemption chapter. Okay, so 5 and 5A I'm not covering it now, because this two I will cover along with the exemptions. When exempted, when RCM, we will try to cover it in one comprehensive chart. Then renting of residential dwelling. So this we will try to do 5AA, 5AB, renting of residential dwelling. Here also some associated exemptions are there. That exemptions part we will see it in the exemptions chapter, but now I will tell you RCM. So what is that RCM is? Renting of residential dwelling. If someone is providing the services of renting of residential dwelling, if the supplier could be any person, supplier of renting of residential dwelling, supplier could be any person. But in case if the recipient is a registered person, in case if the recipient is a registered person, always RCM. Always RCM. So residential dwelling. Sir, what do you mean by residential dwelling? A residential house here, if a place which is meant for residential purposes, like let us say for example 1 BHK flat, 2 BHK flat, residential house. So if there is a residential dwelling, that residential dwelling has been given on rent. Supplier could be any person. There is no restriction on supplier. Supplier could be any person. But in case if the recipient is a registered person, then always RCM. Recipient, if he is registered person, always RCM. Recipient is required to discharge that liability under RCM. But however, there are some exemptions here. Renting of residential dwelling is exempted. When it is exempted, sir? In case if the renting of residential dwelling is received by a person who is an unregistered person for residential purposes. For residential purpose, renting of residential dwelling to an unregistered recipient for residential purposes. Exempted. No one will be liable to pay the GST. Let us say, for example, I am a salaried employee. I went to some metropolitan city. I have taken there 1 2 BHK flat for rent, where I am staying it along with my family. I am I'm an unregistered person. I have taken one residential dwelling for my residential purposes. Then also, do you think I will be liable to pay the amount of GST? No, no RCM, no FCM, exempted, because shelter is essential need for everyone. No. So that's why renting of residential dwelling for residential purposes to an unregistered recipient is exempted. No one will be liable to pay the GST on it. Similarly, renting of residential dwelling for residential purposes only. Renting of residential dwelling for residential purposes only. But if the recipient is a registered person, but if that recipient is an individual person, if that recipient is a registered person, but he is a registered individual, that means he is a registered sole proprietor. But in that residential dwelling, he is using it for residential purposes of himself and his family, and also he is incurring that expenses on his own account. He is incurring that expenses on his own account. Then also it is exempted. Let us say I'm a business person. Let us say I'm taking up this coaching classes. I'm a registered person. I have taken one 2 BHK flat on rent. I'm a recipient. A recipient is a registered person. I have taken a 2 BHK flat for rent, not for running my office. There I will stay with my family. Should I also liable to pay GST on that? Not required. That is exempted. Once again, shelter. That I am using it for shelter purposes. That's why there also it is exempted. Sir, what if a company which is a registered person, they have taken one 2 BHK flat on rent where the company's guest will stay there. Company's guest will stay there. Will it be taxable? Yes. Will it be covered under RCM? Yes. Why? Because exemption is there only when that renting of residential dwelling is taken by a recipient who is a registered person who must be an sole proprietor. Who must be a sole proprietor and he must be using that residential dwelling for residential purposes. Then only exemption will become applicable. In case if the partnership firm has taken a 2 BHK flat for residential purposes only, for their partners, no exemption will become applicable. Only when the recipient is a registered person who is a sole proprietor and who is using that residential dwelling for his residential purposes, then only exemption will come. Understood? Clear and comfortable, everybody? So what did I say? Renting of residential dwelling for residential purposes when the recipient is unregistered, exempted. In case if the recipient is registered, if the recipient is a registered person and he is taking that, he is renting that residential dwelling, and recipient is a registered person, he is a sole proprietor, not company, not partnership firm, not anybody else. If the recipient is a registered person but he is a sole proprietor and he is taking that residential dwelling for staying along with his family, not for commercial purposes, he is incurring that expenses on his own account, not on behalf of his business, then also it is exempted, no GST. Okay, in all other cases, if the recipient is a registered person, always it will be taxable under reverse charge mechanism. Understood? Clear and comfortable? And one more thing, if you pay close attention, even for exemptions also, when residential dwelling is given for residential purposes, then only exemption is there. If the residential dwelling is given for commercial purposes, then there will be no exemption, then GST will be payable. GST will be payable. For commercial purposes, no exemptions are there. Only when renting of residential dwelling is for residential purposes, then only exemption will become applicable. Understood? Clear? So this is what? One entry. Next, renting of immobile property other than residential dwelling. Sir, residential dwelling you have explained. What if a property is being rented out which is other than residential dwelling? That means if commercial premises like shops, offices, if they are given on rent, then when RCM will become applicable? When they say here it depends on the status of the supplier and status of the recipient. If the supplier is unregistered, if the recipient is registered, then RCM. Then only RCM. Sir, what if supplier is registered person? Then forward charge mechanism only. So renting other than residential dwelling will get covered under RCM only when few conditions are fulfilled. What are they? Supplier should be unregistered person, recipient must be registered person, then only RCM. Sir, what if supplier is a registered person? Then forward charge mechanism only. Then forward charge mechanism only. Able to understand? So if I have to summarize it once again, renting of residential dwelling. If it is a residential dwelling, if the recipient is registered, who is supplier doesn't matter. Supplier could be any person. If the recipient is registered, then RCM, but subject to some exemptions. Renting other than residential dwelling. If the supplier is other than registered person, but if the recipient is registered person, then it will be covered under reverse charge mechanism. Understood? Clear and comfortable? Other than composition dealer. Here they have kept one more point here. The recipient should be other than composition dealer in case of other than residential dwelling. So that means here if the recipient is registered person other than composition dealer. Let me put it this way. So recipient is registered person other than composition dealer. Other than composition dealer, then only RCM. Sir, what if recipient is a composition dealer? Then RCM will not become applicable. Is it exempted? No. If I say RCM is not applicable, it doesn't mean it is exempted. If I say RCM is not applicable, then it is forward charge mechanism. If there is any specific exemption, then only exempted. If I say RCM is not applicable, don't directly come to the conclusion that it is exempted. No, if RCM is not applicable, there is one more option there, FCM. If specific exemption is there, then FCM also will not become applicable. Understood? Clear and comfortable? Right. So this is what regarding renting of immobile properties. So what bunch of services under RCM we have covered? First one, GTA services we have covered. Thereafter, second category we have covered regarding legal services. Third one, sponsorship services. Fourth block we have completed regarding renting of immobile properties. Then we will talk about director services. Services provided by director will also be covered under RCM. So there is a director. Directorship services. Who is the supplier here? Director. Supplier is director. Who is recipient? The company or body corporate in which he is a director. So there is an individual who is providing directorship services to a company or body corporate. Who is supplier? Director. Who is recipient? Body corporate. Now they are saying this service will get covered under reverse charge mechanism. That means on that directorship services, let us say for this director, for acting as a director, they are paying them the remuneration of 1 lakh rupees. On this 1 lakh rupees, this recipient being body corporate, they will only be liable to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. Able to understand?
But here there is one conflict. But here there is one matter requiring discussion. Here there is one conflict. See, companies started arguing that, see, when we are paying remuneration to the director, director is our employee. When we are paying remuneration to the director is our employee. So that is services provided by an employee to the employer in the course of employment, which is neither a supply of goods, not even supply of services. It is getting covered under Schedule 3. So we will not be paying any GST. Like that, companies are not paying GST under RCM on directorship services. Because there was a confusion, because companies are arguing that director is an employee. So we are paying him the salary. So services provided by employee to the employer in the course of his employment is specified under Schedule 1, Schedule 3. Not even a supply of service, not even supply of goods. So it is outside of the GST purview. Like that, some companies are arguing and not paying GST. So that's why department has clarified is. So here point of conflict is whether director is an employee or not. That is where the question is coming. In order to decide whether director is an employee or not, what they have told is, when the company is paying the remuneration to the director, check under which section of the Income Tax Act they are deducting TDS. When they are paying remuneration to the director, you have to first check under which section TDS is getting deducted. If it is salary, if it is a remuneration is in the form of salary, then generally TDS will be deducted under section 192. If the TDS is deducted under section 192, then that services provided by the director is in the capacity of an employee. Those are services provided by the employee to the employer in the course of employment. It is not at all a supply getting covered under Schedule 3, and no GST will come here. No GST implications, no forward charge mechanism, no RCM. On the other hand, if the company is paying some remuneration to their independent directors, generally there will be some independent directors in the company. To them also they will pay remuneration, but they will not pay it in the form of salary. They will pay something called sitting fees and all. That remuneration, it will be subjected to TDS under section 194J. So if the remuneration paid to the director is getting subjected to TDS under section 194J, then it is a supply. It is not falling under Schedule 3. It is not service provided by the employee in the course of his employment, because it is a professional service. You are subjected to TDS under 194J. So then it will be treated as supply of service, and GST will be payable, and that GST will be payable under reverse charge mechanism. That GST will be payable under reverse charge mechanism. Able to understand? So the main point here is, in case of directorship services, we have to check under which section TDS is getting deducted. If the TDS is getting deducted under section 192, those are the services provided by the employee to the employer in the course of employment outside of the GST purview. On the other hand, if the remuneration is paid if the remuneration is subjected to TDS under section 194J, then it will be the professional service. It is not getting covered under Schedule 3. It will be a supply. It will be subjected to GST, but under reverse charge mechanism. Company has to discharge it. And this RCM provisions will become applicable only for the services provided in the director's capacity. Only services provided in the director's capacity. Let us say this person, in addition to acting as a director of the company, he is also providing some other service. Let us say he is also providing services of renting of immobile property. So will that also get covered under RCM? No, unless otherwise covered anywhere else. Okay. So this clause, this entry only talks about services provided by him in the capacity of a director only. They will only get covered under RCM. If he is a director, but in other capacity, if he is providing services to the said company, then it will not come under RCM. It will go to forward charge mechanism. Only directorship services will get covered under this entry. Understood? Clear? Next. So this is what regarding directorship services. Now we will talk about some financial services. Banking sector, insurance sector, we will see. So what is a banking sector, insurance sector? Services provided by an insurance agent. Services provided by an insurance agent. So insurance agent is there. He is providing some services to an insurance company located in the taxable territory. Now they told this is under RCM. So that means whatever services insurance agent has provided to the insurance company, for which he will receive some commission, remuneration, etc. On that, this insurance company is only required to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, so this is what regarding services provided by insurance agent to a person carrying on insurance business. This is getting covered under RCM. Similarly, recovery agent services. The services provided by recovery agent. Let me once again come here. Services provided by a recovery agent. There will be a recovery agent, no? So there is a recovery agent. He is providing the services to a recipient. Sir, who is that recipient? Recipient is a banking company, financial institution, or NBFC. So recipient should be banking company, NBFC, or any financial institution. So services provided by recovery agents to a banking company, NBFC, or financial institution, for which this bank, NBFC, financial institution will pay them the remuneration. This also will get covered under RCM. Bank, NBFC, or financial institution is required to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. These days it is quite common. No, you take the loan, you will not repay it. Now some recovery agents will come for recovery. These are not bank employees. They are some professionals. There's gundas, rowdies, and all. They will recruit, and they have to go and recover that money from that borrower on behalf of that lender. So that we call it as recovery agent services. They have told that even these recovery agent services also will get covered under reverse charge mechanism. So one, services provided by insurance agent to the insurance company, services provided by recovery agent to a banking company, NBFC, or financial institution covered under RCM. There are few more services covered under this. So let me come here. This one. Direct selling agent. This also will try to cover 12, 13, 14. All these three are also related to banking sector and financial sector only. We'll try to cover it. Services provided by individual direct selling agents other than body corporate, partnership firm, or LLP firm to a banking company, NBFC. They will also get covered under RCM. So what is this? So now here many students often get confused here. I will give you one small clarity here. Services provided by a direct selling agent. Services provided by a direct selling agent, and that direct selling agent must be a individual direct selling agent. And services provided by individual direct selling agent to a banking company. What they're saying here, who should be recipient? Recipient should be banking company or NBFC. Recipient should be banking company or NBFC located in the taxable territory, then RCM will become applicable. Now where students often commit the mistake is when it comes to recovery agent. When it comes to recovery agent, there is no restriction that recovery agent should be only individual. Recovery agent could be body corporate also. Recovery agent could be even partnership firm also. So recovery agent services, supplier could be anybody. And if the recipient is banking company, NBFC, or other financial institution also, all will get covered under RCM. But when it comes to direct selling agent services, only individual direct selling agent. If the services provided are by a direct selling agent, but if the direct selling agent is body corporate or partnership firm, then RCM will not become applicable. In case of direct selling agent, RCM will become applicable only when the supplier, only when the direct selling agent services are provided by an individual, then only RCM will become applicable. But there is no such restriction with regard to recovery agent services. Recovery agency services can be provided either by individual or a partnership firm or a body corporate, still RCM only. But for direct selling agent services, only the supplier should be individual. Only the supplier should be individual. If the supplier is individual direct selling agent, and if the recipient is a banking company or NBFC, then only RCM. Okay, so please keep this point in mind, guys. Many students often commit a mistake. Right. Fine. So let us try to understand it. Let us try to proceed further. So one question they are asking, sir, if the recipient is a composition dealer and the supplier is unregistered person, then how can supplier collect a GST from the recipient? See, there what will happen is, so one of the student is asking a question. I think this is the question regarding immobile property, renting of immobile property. Yes, I got your question. So one of the student is asking a question. Sir, renting other than residential dwelling. Recipient is a registered person, but let us say he's a composition dealer. If he's a composition dealer, then RCM will not become applicable. Forward charge mechanism should be applicable. No, sir. Yes, forward charge mechanism should be applicable. But here supplier is an unregistered person. No. Yes, supplier is unregistered person. No one will collect the GST. No one will collect the GST in that case. So let us take a typical scenario. Renting other than residential dwelling. Recipient is a registered person, but he is a composition dealer, sir. So in that case, RCM will not become applicable. Supplier is unregistered, recipient is a registered person, but he is a composition dealer. RCM not applicable. Yes, when RCM is not applicable, forward charge mechanism will become applicable. Supplier should collect the amount of GST and pay it to the government. But here supplier is unregistered person. No, sir. Yes, supplier is unregistered person. That's why he will not collect any GST. But can I call it as exempt? No, you can't call it as exempt. It is not exempt. It is taxable. But here GST will not be collected. Why? Because supplier is not a taxable person. Supplier is not a taxable person. Okay. So yes, it is not RCM only we have to say, but we should not say it exempted. We have to say it forward charge mechanism. But under forward charge mechanism, here GST will not get collected. Why? Because supplier is unregistered person. Okay, I hope your doubt is solved here. So many students will have this common doubt. So that's why I thought of clarifying it for everybody. Now, so once again, let us come back to the financial sector. Right. In the financial sector, what and all I have covered? Services provided by insurance agent to an insurance company located in taxable territory, RCM. Services provided by recovery agent to a bank, NBFC, or financial institution, RCM. Then we have individual direct selling agent services provided to bank or NBFC, covered under RCM. There are few more things which will be added to the list here. Now, what are that few more things is services provided by a business facilitator to a banking company located in taxable territory, covered under RCM. So, what is one more service? Services provided by business facilitator to a banking company. Only banking company, here NBFC is not there. Services provided by business facilitator to a banking company will get covered under RCM. So, let me write it here clearly. Banking company is covered under RCM. Not just that, one more thing they say here. Services provided by agent of business correspondent to a business correspondent. To a business correspondent. Let me write it completely. To a business correspondent is also getting covered under RCM. So this is all bunch of financial services which are getting covered under reverse charge mechanism. Understood? That will be the next entry. See, I'm not going into the technical details. Who is business correspondent? Who is agent of business correspondent? All that I'm not going into the technical details because that will take a lot of time. Who is business facilitator? Who is business correspondent? All this discussion we generally have it in our regular class in a detailed manner. But here I'm letting you revise the entire provision. So these are the bunch of banking and financial services which are getting covered under RCM. So in all this, you have to remember who should be supplier, who should be recipient, what should be the status of the supplier, what should be the status of the recipient, that you have to remember it. Okay, clear? So one more last time I'm revising. So insurance agent providing services to insurance company, recovery agent providing services to banks or NBFCs or financial institutions, individual direct selling agent providing services to banks or NBFCs, a business facilitator providing services to banking company only. Here NBFC is not covered. Let me write and strike it off. So here they did not say NBFC, only services provided to banking company by the business facilitator only will get covered under RCM, and services provided by agent of business correspondent to a business correspondent. So these are the bunch of financial services which will get covered under RCM. Okay, right. Now, associated with the banks, we have one more entry also. Services provided by members of overseeing committee to the RBI. So let me add it here itself. One more thing also I will add it here. Members of overseeing committee. Members of overseeing committee. These members of overseeing committee will provide the services to RBI for which they will get remuneration. That will also get covered under RCM. See, what is this overseeing committee is? In India, we have RBI, right, which is a central bank. Now this RBI will take various decisions regarding the money circulation, whether or how to keep the repo rates, should they increase it, decrease it. All the decisions are taken by RBI. Now RBI, how they will take the decision is they have created one committee where there will be industry experts and all. These people will study the market, they study the Indian market situation. They will give suggestions to the RBI regarding what decisions have to be taken. So like that, some industry experts will be there who will be acting as members of overseeing committee. They will study the industry trends and give the suggestions to the RBI. For their services, RBI will pay them some remuneration. For them, RBI will pay them some remuneration. So for that remuneration, even RBI is only liable to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. Here supplier will not collect any GST under forward charge mechanism. This will get covered under reverse charge mechanism. Okay. So these are the bunch of banking and financial and insurance services which will get covered under RCM. Now we will try to proceed ahead. Now we will try to talk about some intellectual property related RCM services. We'll try to talk about intellectual property related services like copyright and trademarks, copyrights, mainly copyrights related services which are covered under RCM, that we'll try to cover. So we have that one bunch. So services provided by way of transfer or permitting use or enjoyment of a copyright under Copyrights Act relating to original dramatic, musical or artistic works. So what is the service here? Transfer or permitting use or enjoyment of a copyright. Either that copyright is related to original dramatic work, musical work or artistic work. So what they are trying to say here, service, what kind of services is covered under RCM? Transfer or permitting use or enjoyment of a copyright. Who should be the service provider? Either music composer, photographer, artist, or the similar kind of people who are engaged in that artistic work. And who should be recipient? Music company, producer, or the like located in the taxable territory. RCM. Sir, what is it? What they are trying to say? Let us say, for example, I'm a music composer. I created one song. For that song, I will take the copyright. For that song, I have taken the copyright under Copyrights Act. One day, T Series has approached me. T Series is a music company. T Series approached me and asked me, sir, you have taken the copyright. You have created a song and taken the copyright. No, you please permit us to use that copyright. So what we will do is we will keep your song on our YouTube channel, and for keeping that, you give us that right. So if you transfer or permit us to use your copyright, in return we will pay you some consideration, generally in the form of royalty. So here, who is the service provider? As a music producer, I am the service provider. So I am the music producer. I'm a music composer. Sorry. So I have created one song. For that, I have taken copyright. That copyright I am transferring, or I am permitting it to be used to some music producer company or some music company. Here it is T Series. So now, for which they will pay me some consideration because I am transferring or permitting the use or enjoyment of a copyright which I have. So here, who is the service provider? Music composer. Who is the service recipient? Music company. Now they are saying that this will get covered under RCM. So on this, for permitting or transferring that right to use copyright, this company will be paying me some consideration. No, on that consideration, this music company is only liable to pay the amount of GST. Or let us say I'm a photographer. I'm a wildlife photographer. I went into the wild and I have taken some wildlife animals photographs. And for that photographs, I have taken a copyright. One day, when Wildlife Magazine has approached me and they asked me, sir, you please transfer or permit the use or enjoyment of that photo of copyright related to that photo, so that photo will publish in our magazine. So for that, the magazine company will give me a photographer. They will give me some amount. So I am the service provider. I am the photographer. I am providing the services relating to transfer or permitting use or enjoyment of a copyright in relation to the photo to a magazine company. So this is also getting covered under RCM. Or let us say I'm an artist. I have drawn painting. I have taken a copyright. So one day one producer is coming to me and asking me to transfer or permit or use, enjoy that intellectual property. For that services also RCM will become applicable. Able to understand? So this is what one category of services for copyrights. One more copyright is also covered. Let us say I'm an author. So I have written this book. So I'm an author. So I have written one book. I have written one novel. For that novel also I will take a copyright. So I have taken copyright. So one day one publisher has approached me. Let us say, for example, Penguin publisher has approached me. They asked me, sir, please transfer the copyright to us. Please permit to use the copyright. Please let us enjoy the copyright. So what we will do is, if you give us rights, if you transfer us the copyrights, we will do the publishing and we will sell your book. Since you are permitting us to use that copyright in relation to your book, we'll pay you some royalty. We'll pay you some consideration. So here, who is the service provider? As an author, I am the service provider. What service I am providing? I am permitting transfer or permitting use or enjoyment of a copyright in relation to original literary work to a publisher who is located in the taxable territory, who is recipient. Now they say that this service is also getting covered under RCM. This publisher is required to pay the amount of GST with the government. Understood? Clear? But however, here they have given some relaxation. Here they have given one option. In case if the author insists, if the author wants, he can take registration and he can make a declaration. He can exercise the option that, sir, even though this service you have notified under RCM, but I want to take the registration and I want to make the payment of GST under forward charge mechanism. I will give the tax invoice, sir. On that invoice, I will also give the declaration, sir. Even though the service is getting covered under RCM, I have exercised the option to pay the GST on it under forward charge mechanism. Even I will give declaration on the tax invoice also, sir. If he is ready to do it, then the government can consider, then the GST department will let the author discharge the tax liability under forward charge mechanism. Able to understand? So that's what they try to say it here. If you see, so services provided by author by way of transfer or permitting use or enjoyment of the copyright covered under 13(1)(a) of the Copyright Act 1957 relating to original literary works to a recipient who is a publisher located in the taxable territory, that will get covered under reverse charge mechanism. However, an author can choose to pay the tax under forward charge mechanism if he is registered and is filing a declaration exercising the option to pay GST under forward charge mechanism, and he has agreed to comply with all the provisions. And one more important condition, the author shall not withdraw from that option up to 1 year. It is not like today you are exercising the option and saying, sir, I will pay the GST under forward charge mechanism. After 1 month or 2 months, you are saying, no, sir, this is very much trouble. Let it be under RCM. Government will not agree. So if you have exercised the option, if you are an author, if you have exercised the option to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism, you have to remain under that option for 1 year. Understood? And one more point here, this option to exercise to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism is only applicable for author. That option is not given for music composer, photographer, or artist. For music composer, photographer, or artist, it must remain under reverse charge mechanism. Compulsory under reverse charge mechanism. There, even as a music composer, photographer, artist, if you are voluntarily coming forward and saying, sir, I will pay the GST under forward charge mechanism, government will not permit. That option they have given only for author. So one more point which I want to bring it before you here. Till now, whatever services I have notified under RCM, unless they have given the option for the person to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism, like in GTA, they have given option for GTA service provider, and here for other they have given option for GTA. For other they have given the option to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism. Only when they are giving option, only when they have given permission, then only you can opt for forward charge mechanism. In all other cases, if they have told RCM, that is compulsory. In all other cases, if they have told RCM, it is compulsory. Like if you take insurance agent, they told services provided by insurance agent to a insurance company under RCM. There can the insurance agent come forward and say, no, I will take registration, I will pay GST under forward charge mechanism. Will that option be given to him? No, the government will ask him to get lost. So unless they give the permission somewhere, like in GTA, they have given permission. For other, they have given permission. Only when they are giving permission, they can exercise the option to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism. If they have not given any option, if they told something is under reverse charge mechanism, it is must, mandatory. You can't there come and poke the government saying, no, I will pay the GST under forward charge mechanism. I don't want to give the trouble to my recipient. All that will not work. Unless they are giving you any option, if they have told you RCM, that is compulsory. Recipient is only required to pay the GST under RCM. Okay, clear? Right. So even that also we have covered. Copyright related things also we have covered. So once again, what and all categories of the services we have covered under RCM? So just I'm dividing it category wise, industry wise. First, GTA we have covered. Thereafter, after GTA, we are done with what? Next category, legal services we have covered, where we have seen the services provided by advocate, form of advocates, and also arbitral tribunal. Thereafter, we have seen sponsorship services. Sponsorship services we have covered. Thereafter, we have started looking into renting of immobile property. Renting of immobile property we have covered. And then we have seen banking and financial sector and insurance sector. So I will call them as financial sector related things we have covered. Thereafter, just now we have covered copyright related services, permitting or transferring or use or enjoyment of a copyrights. Next, let us see the next bunch of services which are getting covered under RCM. Sorry, my pencil has ran out of power. Just give me 1 minute. Right. So in the meantime, we'll try to cover the remaining things also. Right. Now we have one more thing, which is security services. Security services also we have. Sir, which kind of security services are getting covered? Security services means, let us say for example, if I'm giving CCTV cameras, if I'm coming and installing CCTV cameras, that is also security services, but that is not covered under RCM. When they say security services, they are only talking about one particular kind of security services. What is it? Security services, which are services provided by way of supply of security personnel. Not for all kind of security services RCM will become applicable. What they are clearly saying it here, security services which are provided by way of supply of security personnel. Let us say I'm running a security agency. Let us say one supermarket is there. They want security guards. So I am providing them security guards. I am providing security personnel. So only this kind of security services will get covered under RCM. Let us say if some company has asked me to install the CCTV cameras, that is also security services only. Will that get covered under RCM? No. Only one kind of security services will get covered under RCM. What is it? Services by way of security services provided by way of supply of security personnel. If I am running a security agency whereby I am providing the supply of security guards to the recipients, that will only get covered under RCM. So security services provided by way of supply of security personnel. Who should be supplier? Supplier should be other than body corporate. Who should be recipient? Recipient should be registered person located in the taxable territory. Who should be recipient? Recipient must be registered person located in the taxable territory. But here there are some few points which we need to keep in mind. There are some exceptions also for RCM. We'll try to talk about it. I will try to summarize it. So what is the service which is getting provided? Security services. Which kind of security services? by way of providing security personnel. Only this will get covered under RCM. Security personnel is getting provided. Who should be supplier? Supplier should be other than body corporate. Who should be recipient? Recipient should be a registered person. Supplier should be other than body corporate. Recipient. Who should be recipient? Recipient should be a registered person. Then RCM will become applicable. However, even though the recipient is registered, even though the supplier is other than body corporate, still RCM will not become applicable. Still RCM will not become applicable. When RCM will not become applicable? When RCM will not become applicable is if the recipient is a registered person, but if the recipient is a department or establishment of central government, state government, union territory, local authority, government agency registered only for deducting TDS under section number 51. So like whatever relaxation they have given for GTNO, the same. So supplier recipient is registered person. But if the recipient is a department or establishment of central government, state government, union territory, local authority or government, what else they say here? Local authority or government agency who have taken registration, if they are registered only for deducting TDS under section number 51, not for making any taxable supply, then RCM will not become applicable. If RCM will not become applicable, then what will happen? Then forward charge mechanism will become applicable. Don't say exempt. When I say there is no RCM, then it will become forward charge mechanism. So recipient is a registered person, but if that recipient should not be a department or establishment of central government, state government or union territory or local authority or government agency who have taken registration only for deducting TDS under section number 51. Recipient is registered, but he should not be he should not be this kind of registered person. Then RCM will not become applicable. And one more case where RCM will not become applicable is recipient is a registered person paying tax under composition scheme. Same like renting of immobile property other than residential dwelling. So recipient is registered person, but he is a composition dealer. Then also RCM will not become applicable. If RCM not becoming applicable, then what will happen? Then forward charge will become applicable. Don't say exempted. Then forward charge will become applicable. Understood? So I try to present it in a neat manner. So when RCM will become applicable? When all these conditions are satisfied. Security services, and that security services should be by way of providing of security personnel. Supplier should be other than body corporate. Recipient must be registered person, but the recipient should not be a department or establishment of central government, state government, union territory, local authority or government agency who have taken registration only for the purpose of deducting TDS under section number 51, but not for making any taxable supply. Or if the recipient is a registered person, but he has opted for composition scheme, then also this RCM will not become applicable. If RCM will not become applicable, then what will happen? Then forward charge mechanism will become applicable. Understood? Clear? Next. So this is regarding security services. Now one more thing we have, renting of motor vehicle. So this also I will try to summarize it. Come on. This also I will try to present it in a neat manner. So renting of motor vehicle will get covered under RCM. When, sir? Here also some conditions. This you have to mug it up. Here also some conditions. Number 1, supplier should be other than body corporate. Recipient must be a body corporate. And some conditions are required to be fulfilled. What and all conditions are required to be fulfilled? That motor vehicle should be designed to carry passengers. Okay. Then cost of fuel must be included in the consideration. Let me put it this way. Cost of fuel must be included in consideration. And supplier should not have charged the GST amounting to, and one more thing they say here. So one more thing. So supplier should be other than body corporate and recipient should be body corporate. Renting of any motor vehicle should be designed to carry passengers. Cost of fuel must be included in the consideration, and the supplier should not have given the tax invoice charging GST at the rate of 6%, but now it is not 6%, it will be 9%. That is what the amendment that you will find it in the supplementary material. So once again, if I write it here, supplier should not have given invoice. That means he should not have opted to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism. Supplier should not have given invoice charging GST at the rate of 9%. 9% means 18% effectively. Supplier should not have given the invoice charging GST at the rate of 18%. Previously, it used to be 12%, but now it is 18%. Okay. So when all these conditions are satisfied, then RCM will become applicable. This you have to remember it, my dear students. So what and all are the conditions when renting of motor vehicles will get covered under RCM? Number one, supplier renting of motor vehicle, that motor vehicle should be designed to carry passengers. That means if I'm giving a motor vehicle on rent which is not designed to carry passengers, let us say I'm giving truck on rent, will it get covered under RCM? No. Only renting of motor vehicle which must be designed to carry passengers. Cost of fuel must be included in the consideration. Supplier should not have given the invoice at the rate of charging GST at the rate of 18%, that is 9%. Previously it used to be 6%, now 9%. And supplier is other than body corporate. Recipient must be a body corporate. When all these conditions are satisfied, then RCM will become applicable. So now here also one slight amendment which we have to remember is, even in case of renting of immobile property, even in case of renting of motor vehicles also, the supplier of renting of motor vehicle services has two options. If he has opted to pay GST under forward charge mechanism, here in case if the supplier of renting of motor vehicle designed to carry passengers, if he has opted to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism, like GTA service provider, here also he is having two rates. So renting of motor vehicle designed to carry passengers, if the supplier opts to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism, or if the supplier is required to pay the GST under forward charge mechanism, then there will be two options. Basically, there used to be two options. Either he can pay 5% of GST with very much restricted ITC. Very restricted ITC he will get. And that means with restriction on ITC, he can pay GST at the rate of 5%. On the other hand, he can pay 12% with full ITC. Previously, this used to be 12%, but if he wants to claim full ITC, he has to pay 18% GST now with full ITC. This is also one amendment. This is also one more amendment. Along with the GTA, this is one more amendment. So that's what, even if you look at the supplementary material, you'll be able to find it. Taxability of services by way of renting of any motor vehicle designed to carry passengers where the cost of fuel is included in the consideration charged from the service recipient. If the supplier of services has taken only limited ITC, if he is taking only limited ITC, then he has the option to pay GST at the rate of 5%. Where supplier wishes to avail ITC without restriction on goods or services used in supplying renting of motor vehicle service. Without any restriction, if you want to take full ITC, previously the GST rate used to be 12%, but now it has been changed to 18%. You will be required to pay 18% of the GST. Understood? Clear and comfortable? So this is one such amendment. So just this much you have to remember it. When renting of motor vehicle or designed to carry passengers will get covered under reverse charge mechanism. Just it is a thumb rule. You have to remember all this. When all these conditions are fulfilled, then GST will be payable under reverse charge mechanism. Okay, right. So with this, we are done with the renting of immobile properties also. Renting of motor vehicles also. So this is also one such a service where covered under RCM. We have one more category of service which is getting covered under RCM. So what is that RCM? What is that one more service? Lending of securities. So one more thing is lending of securities. Sir, what is that lending of securities? In the stock market, there will be an option called lending of securities. So there will be one person who is having the shares. He is lending the securities to another person. So here supplier will be lender. Recipient will be borrower. So even like the way you lend the money, even you can lend the securities also. Let us say I'm a person who is trading in the stock market. I have some shares which I'm holding it for long-term investment. I don't sell it in the near time. So what I can do, I can lend my shares to another person who is ready to borrow them. So he will borrow the shares and after a certain period of time, he will return back the shares to me. Since I am lending the shares to another person, what will happen is I will collect from him some amount. Some charges I will collect, some consideration I will collect. I am lending the shares, no? For that I will receive some consideration. So some charges I will collect. So here who is the supplier? Lender of the securities is the supplier. Who is the recipient? Borrower of the securities is the recipient. And this scheme is approved by, there is a scheme approved called Securities Lending Scheme, which is approved by SEBI. And this transaction will happen through a mediator. Like one stockbroker will be involved here. So through the mediator, not stockbroker actually, these depositories are there, no? So there will be one intermediary. This transaction will generally happen through an intermediary. Keep the intermediary aside. So who is the supplier of service? Lending of securities? Lender. Who is the recipient? Borrower. So now they are saying that this service will get covered under RCM. As a borrower, you are recipient. You are receiving the services of lending of securities. You will pay the consideration to the lender. On that consideration, whatever is the applicable amount of GST is there, that amount of GST is required to be discharged by the recipient under reverse charge mechanism. Understood? So this is what they try to keep it here. So if I read it for you, services of lending of securities under securities lending scheme, that is a person who is a service provider, lender, who the person who deposits the securities registered in his name or in name of his authorized representative on with approved intermediary. Who is recipient? Borrower, that is a person who borrows the securities under this scheme through an intermediary. So this will get covered under reverse charge mechanism. Understood? Then so under IGST also they have notified some services. So any service supplied by a person located in non-taxable territory to a person located in the taxable territory other than non-taxable online recipient, that will also get covered under RCM. So I spoke about import of services. This point I have already clarified in the supply chapter. In case of import of services, the importer is liable to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. Yes or no? Being a recipient, as an importer, if you are receiving the services from a person located outside of India, the recipient, whoever is located in the taxable territory, whoever is importing it, that person will be liable to pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism. They use some phrases here, non-taxable online recipient and all. Not important. This non-taxable online recipient and all is something which is relevant for CA final, not for the CA inter. This you can ignore it. Just you can remember this point as import of services. For import of services, GST will be payable under reverse charge mechanism. Understood? Clear and comfortable, everybody? So with this we have completed all different categories of the services which are covered under reverse charge mechanism. Now I wanted to explain one more point here. There is one more thing which is 9 subsection 5. There is one more thing, 9 subsection 5. See, 9 subsection 3 and 9 subsection 4 will talk about those cases where RCM will become applicable. So when it comes to manner of collection of GST, I told you about two cases. One is forward charge mechanism and the other one is reverse charge mechanism. One is forward charge mechanism, other one is reverse charge mechanism. What is forward charge mechanism? In the forward charge mechanism, what will happen is the supplier will collect the amount of GST from the recipient and pay it to the government. In the reverse charge mechanism, what will happen? The recipient will directly pay the amount of GST to the government. See, both in forward charge mechanism and under reverse charge mechanism, the ultimate burden of tax is going to be on the recipient only. Both under forward charge mechanism and reverse charge mechanism, the ultimate person, the person whoever is bearing the taxes is recipient only. Just who is paying is changing. See, in case of forward charge mechanism, supplier will pay the amount of GST to the government, but supplier will not pay it from his pocket. Who will pay? Supplier will collect it from the recipient and pay it to the government. In case of recipient, in case of RCM, recipient himself is paying the GST amount to the government from his own pocket. So that's what I say, whether it is forward charge mechanism or it is reverse charge mechanism, just the person through whom the money is going to the government is changing. But ultimate burden in both the cases, both in forward charge mechanism and reverse charge mechanism, the ultimate person whoever is bearing the taxes is the same, who is recipient. Yes or no? So I have told you about two cases, two mechanisms for collection of tax. But now I am going to tell you one more case. 9 subsection 5. There is one more category, there is one more mechanism for collection of GST where neither the supplier will pay the amount of GST to the government, not even recipient will pay the amount of GST to the government. There is one more mechanism for recovery of taxes where neither the supplier will pay the amount of GST to the government, not the recipient will pay the amount of GST to the government. Then who will pay the amount of GST, sir? E-commerce operator will pay the amount of GST. Who will pay the GST? E-commerce operator will pay the amount of GST. So there are some services which are notified under 9 subsection 5. Listen carefully. There are some services, only services. There are some services which are notified under 9 subsection 5. If these services are provided through the e-commerce operator, not the supplier will pay the amount of GST, not the recipient will pay the amount of GST, but e-commerce operator will have the obligation to collect the amount of GST and pay it to the government. Ultimately, anyhow, he will collect it from the recipient only, but the payment has to be done by the e-commerce operator. Sir, what are those services? Those services are notified under 9 subsection 5. Sir, how many services are notified, sir? 6. Now here is one more amendment. Previously, there used to be only 5 services which are notified under 9 subsection 5. Now to that 5 services, one more service they have added to the list, which is an amendment. So altogether, there are 6 services which are notified under 9 subsection 5. If these services are provided through the e-commerce operator, if these six notified services are getting provided through the e-commerce operator, neither the supplier will pay the amount of GST, not even the recipient will pay the amount of GST. Then who will pay the amount of GST, sir? E-commerce operator will pay the amount of GST. Sir, what are that six services which are notified? If provided through e-commerce operator will pay the amount of GST. Let us start looking at that list. So, number one, services by way of transportation of passengers by a radio taxi, motor cab, maxi cab, motorcycle, or any other motor vehicle except omnibus. Other than usual bus we see, if services of transportation of passengers is getting provided through the e-commerce operator, like here whom they are referring to, Ola, Rapido, Uber, all this they are referring to. So these are the e-commerce operator. Let us take Ola. Ola is an e-commerce operator. There is a cab driver. He will get registered with Ola. He will provide the services of transportation of passengers to a recipient. Who is the supplier? Cab driver. Who is the recipient? That person whoever is booking the cab. What is Ola doing here? Ola is just an intermediary. He's just a mediator. But they say that if these services are getting provided through this e-commerce operator, on that services, Ola has to pay the amount of GST. So Ola will give the invoice. On that invoice, they will collect the amount of GST from the recipient, and this e-commerce operator will pay the amount of GST. So first category of service on which GST will be paid by e-commerce operator is services by way of transportation of passengers by vehicles other than omnibus. Omnibus means is normal travel buses we have no. Other than this, whatever other passenger transportation services which are getting provided through the e-commerce operator only will pay the amount of GST. Next, second category of service which will get on which GST will be paid by the reverse on which GST will be paid by e-commerce operator is services by way of once again transportation of passengers. So let me try to put it in a diagrammatic format. So there is an e-commerce operator and there is a service getting provided. Sir, what is that service, sir? Transportation of passengers. Service which is getting provided is 1 minute. Just give me 1 minute. The pencil will get charged. So talking about this second category of service which is getting covered under 9 subsection 5 is through e-commerce operator, the services of transportation of passengers is getting provided by way of omnibus. In the first service, transportation of passengers by other than omnibus. But in the second service, which is notified under 9 subsection 5 is transportation of passengers by way of omnibus, where the supplier is other than body corporate. Supplier should be other than body corporate. Then this is also getting covered under 9 subsection 5. On this services also, e-commerce operator will pay the amount of GST. Which means what? If the supplier is body corporate, and if they are providing the services of transportation of passengers by way of omnibus through the e-commerce operator, then 9 subsection 5 will not become applicable. Then supplier only required to pay the amount of GST under forward charge mechanism. Only when the supplier is other than body corporate and if they are providing the services by way of transportation of passengers by way of omnibus, then only 9 subsection 5 will become applicable. So first, let me rewrite this first point also in a detailed manner. First category of service where 9 subsection 5 will become applicable is, just 1 minute. So I will structure it. What is this, Ray? So once again, e-commerce operator, service which is getting provided is transportation of passengers. Other than omnibus. Supplier could be any person. There is no restriction here that only body corporate and all. Supplier could be any person. If they are providing the services by way of transportation of passengers by other than omnibus through e-commerce operator, supplier could be any person, then always it will get covered under 9 subsection 5. E-commerce operator only will pay the amount of GST. However, if it is transportation of passengers by way of omnibus, 9 subsection 5 will become applicable. That is, e-commerce operator will pay the amount of GST only when the supplier is other than body corporate. Next, third category of services under which 9 subsection 5 will become applicable is, so third category of service which is services by way of providing accommodation in hotels, inns, guest house, clubs, campsites or other commercial places meant for residential or lodging purposes except where the person is liable for registration. Sir, what is that? So now they are talking about this OYO and this other kind of platforms. So which service will get covered under RC 9 subsection 5? E-commerce operator. Services by way of providing accommodation in places. accommodation in places, like it could be hotels, clubs, campsite, whatever it is. Just remember the example here as OYO. And supplier, if any supplier is providing the services by way of accommodation in places, and supplier is not liable for registration. Supplier should not be liable for registration. Supplier is not, if the supplier is not liable for registration under section number 22 subsection 1. So in that case, 9 subsection 5 will become applicable. Okay, so which means if the supplier, if that hotel owner is already liable for registration, if they have already been registered and they are listing themselves on OYO through the e-commerce operator if they are providing accommodation services. But in case if the supplier is already liable for registration, then 9 subsection 5 will not become applicable. If 9 subsection 5 will not become applicable, that means what will happen? The supplier only will collect the amount of GST. Supplier only has to remit the amount of GST. So when 9 subsection 5 will become applicable, in case of accommodation services, supplier should be a person who is not liable for registration. If the supplier is liable for registration and if he is providing the services through the e-commerce operator, then 9 subsection 5 will not become applicable. Usual forward charge mechanism only will become applicable. Next, fourth category of service, and which will get covered under 9 subsection 5. I am trying to make it as simple as I could here, my dear students. Listen carefully. I am giving some excellent presentation which you can understand it. So fourth category of service which is covered here is housekeeping services, plumbing, carpenting services. So let me put it this way. If someone is providing housekeeping services, so plumbing, carpenting, all that will come here. So here they are talking about this urban clap. So if housekeeping services are provided through e-commerce operator by a supplier, and here also supplier is not liable for registration. Supplier should not be, so let me put it this way, let me duplicate it. Supplier should not be liable for registration under section number 22, then 9 subsection 5 will become applicable. That means if the supplier is already liable for registration, then 9 subsection 5 will not become applicable. Supplier is only required to collect the amount of GST from the recipient under forward charge mechanism. Now, one more category of service which will get covered under 9 subsection 5 is, once again, e-commerce operator. Now they will talk about restaurant service providers. So if they are providing restaurant services, now they are talking about Swiggy and Zomato. If the supplier is providing restaurant services through e-commerce operator, then also 9 subsection 5 will become applicable. But here supplier should be other than hotel located at specified premises. So if you see it here, restaurant services other than the services supplied by restaurant or eating joints located at specified premises. That means they should not be located at specified premises. If they are not located at specified premises, then 9 subsection 5 will become applicable. So now what is specified premises? Now, what do you mean by specified premises? Specified premises means those providing hotel accommodation service, those restaurants which are at a hotel, which are at a place where it is providing hotel accommodation, having a declared tariff of accommodation more than 7,500 per unit per day or equivalent. So if they are charging more than, if it is a 5-star hotel, like for example, if there is a 5-star hotel where they are charging per day per room more than 7,500, in that 5-star hotel, if a restaurant is located, and if that restaurant, that will call as specified premises, and if that restaurant is providing the restaurant services through e-commerce operator like Swiggy and Zomato, then 9 subsection 5 will not become applicable. Then forward charge mechanism, that restaurant only will collect the amount of GST and pay it to the government. But in case if the restaurant is other than specified premises, if the restaurant is located at other than specified premises like normal restaurants and all, if they are providing the services, restaurant services through the e-commerce operator, that will get covered under 9 subsection 5. Understood? E-commerce operator only will pay the amount of GST. So I told you about 5 cases. These 5 cases are already there. There is no amendment in this. Now the next point which I am adding, that is an amendment. So earlier there used to be only 5. Can you repeat it once for me? Services by way of transportation of passengers by other than omnibus. Supplier could be any person. 9 subsection 5. Transportation of passengers by omnibus by a supplier who should be other than body corporate. 9 subsection 5. Accommodation at places provided through an e-commerce operator where the supplier is not liable for registration under section 22 subsection 1. Then also 9 subsection 5. Supplying of housekeeping services, plumbing, carpeting services through the e-commerce operator where the supplier is not liable for registration under 22 subsection 1. 9 subsection 5. Supply of restaurant services through the e-commerce operator where the supplier is not located at specified premises. Then also 9 subsection 5. Now we have one amendment to this list. So what is that amendment is one more item they have added to the list which will get covered under 9 subsection 5. Services provided by way of local delivery, except where the person supplying such services is already liable for registration. Sir, what they are trying to say here? What they are trying to say here? So one more last service they have added here. Through the e-commerce operator, if local delivery services are getting provided. Which services? Local delivery services. Let us take Rapido Parcel. In Rapido, we have an option, Rapido, Parcel, Dunzo, like that we have platforms, no? So through that e-commerce operator, if local delivery services are getting provided and if the supplier is not liable for registration, supplier should not be liable for registration under section 22 subsection 1. So if the supplier is not liable for registration, then also this 9 subsection 5 will become applicable. This is an amendment here. So let us say, for example, today Rapido Parcel has become part and parcel of our life. Let us say I want to send one item. Let us say I want to send this book. I want to send this book from here to another place. So what I will do, I will open the Rapido Parcel I will open. So I will book a person where he will come and pick up this. He will come and pick up this book from me and he will deliver it wherever I wanted that to happen. So that is a service which is getting provided through e-commerce operator. And they're the supplier. Who is the supplier there? That individual person who will come and pick this book from me? No. He is a supplier of service. He is actually registered with Rapido Parcel. Here, Rapido Parcel is just a aggregator. Actual service provider is who? That supplier. That individual person who will come to you, know, to pick that book from you. So that is a supplier. So that services of local delivery, let me write it here. Services of local delivery provided through the e-commerce operator, where the supplier, whoever is providing that services, if he is not liable for registration under 22 subsection 1, even on that local delivery services also, e-commerce operator is only required to pay the amount of GST under section 9 subsection 5. E-commerce operator only liable to pay the GST under 9 subsection 5. Understood? Clear and comfortable? So this is one more amendment under 9 subsection 5. See, I would suggest you please have a look at the amendment video. I connected all the amendments at one place in a beautiful manner. Just I would ask you to refer to that amendment video. The first half an hour you watch it. I have connected all these amendments. What is the logic behind all these amendments also I have explained in the amendment video. My request will be to just to watch that initial half an hour of the amendment video. You will get the next level of clarity why all these amendments have come. Here I can't explain the background logic, but in the amendment video I have explained the background logic for all these amendments. Clear? So these are the 6 services which are covered under 9 subsection 5, where neither the supplier will pay the GST under forward charge mechanism, neither the recipient will pay the GST under reverse charge mechanism, but e-commerce operator will pay the amount of GST under 9 subsection 5. Understood? Clear and comfortable? That's all. So this is what regarding charge of GST, my dear students. I hope, so with this we'll try to wind up our today's revision session. I hope you guys are all able to understand it. You're all able to learn. You're all able to revise the concepts in a much better manner. So I will wind up my session here. Today we have done 3 chapters. Registration we have done. Charge we have, composition levy we have done. Charge of GST also we have done. So today we'll try to wind up with that. And one more important announcement I have to make it here. Tomorrow the live session is going to be at 10 to 2. Tomorrow, the live session is going to be at 10. Tomorrow's marathon. So tomorrow's marathon is going to be at morning 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. We'll have a marathon, not at 9. So we'll have it from 10 to 2. Kindly do note it and you try to attend it. Okay, right. So in case if you have already joined it, so since it is a update, so many students will be texting me from 9 itself. If they have not attended live today, they will be texting it that, sir, why live has not started? Is there no live and all? Just in the comments section. I will be busy with some other meeting. In the comments section, my request from you, in case if you have already joined, if you are already tracking from 9 itself, I will schedule and keep it. In case if in the comment section, if someone is asking, is there no live today and all, since you have attended the live for today, just let them know in the comment section that it will be starting at 10 a.m. or something like that. Just let them know so that they will also be aware. Okay, right. So that's all for now. See you in the tomorrow's marathon session. Bye everyone. Take care.